Chapter 246. Humph, do you think I'm an idiot? Fan Fong replied again. His body did not stop at all. The powerful senses of a half-step, nascent soul realm cultivator spread out. With his keen senses, he determined the possible escape routes and directions of Chun, how within a radius of several hundred miles, and quickly chased after him. 4 hours later, Fan Fong's face was livid. He took a deep breath, turned around, and quickly headed for the safety zone. He was full of confidence, but he was infuriated by Chun Hao in their first encounter. After 4 hours, he didn't sense any aura of Chun Hao, but he received a message from Chun Hao again. Safety zone. Why did he go back? The beautiful girl in a blue dress with a black veil covering her face was one of the few experts who could keep up with Fan Fong's speed. She was slightly surprised when she found that Fan Fong had stopped moving forward and was instead heading back quickly. Some of the cultivators who were following behind and waiting to watch a good show also turned around and headed back. Is this the palace in the cave? Chun Hao suddenly appeared at the entrance of the huge palace in the core safety zone like a breeze. This was a huge space with a radius of thousands of miles and a height of tens of thousands of feet. There was a huge circular palace complex in the core area, which was emitting an ancient and cold aura. Just as Chun Hao was staring at the palace and feeling slightly shocked, a woman's scream came from far behind him. It was very soft and obviously hundreds of miles away, but it didn't escape Chun Hao's sharp perception. Bang! 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 In a moment, the sound of mountains shaking and the earth shaking came closer. A terrifying aura of a demonic beast gradually became clear. What a powerful demonic beast! Chun Hao was slightly surprised and turned around. Two silhouettes were flying toward the palace at a speed several times faster than the speed of sound. 10 miles behind them, a crimson demonic beast that was even taller than a small mountain was following. It looked like it was made of underground lava, and each step it took covered several thousand meters. Obviously, it was getting closer and closer to the two cultivators in front of it. Junior sister, don't be afraid. Hang in there. We'll reach the safety zone soon. Senior brother Duan, don't worry about me. It's too late. A female disciple at the very back was being grabbed by a young man. She was running for her life, her mouth full of blood. Even her clothes had countless black holes that looked like they had been burned, revealing her protective armor. Even so, the two of them were emitting a burnt smell. This was especially true for the youth who had used his body to block the attack. His back was completely black. Their auras were clearly at the peak of the late golden elixir realm. The young man, in particular, was half a step away from the nascent soul realm. However, the demonic beast they encountered was too strong. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that a red flame beast would appear in a region that was clearly suitable for a peak late-stage golden core realm cultivator to cultivate. The red flame beast's battle prowess was close to that of an early nascent soul realm expert. Even if an early nascent soul stage expert encountered him, he would be forced to retreat. It had a huge body that seemed to be made of magma. Even if it was chopped into pieces, it could still regenerate its body. It was one of the legendary immortal demonic beasts that contained a pure immortal bloodline. Its speed was also as abnormal as that of an early nascent soul stage expert. Out of the 8 of them, only the 2 of them were still alive. Initially, they had scattered in all directions to escape. Even so, the others were killed one by the red flame beast and burned into ashes. What a terrifying demonic aura! The tremors of the earth and mountains, as well as the demonic aura that covered thousands of miles, alerted the cultivators who were immersed in cultivation in the palaces hundreds of miles away. One by one, they flew out of the palaces with a shocked expression on their faces. Help! The young girl let out a sharp, loud, terrified, and hopeful cry. What was so close yet world apart? This was called. They were about to escape into the safety zone of the palaces, but the red flame beast was getting closer and closer. According to the red flame beast's attack range, they would be finished in another 4 breaths. When a young girl saw the cultivators flying out of the palaces, she called for help. Although she did not have much hope, this was because the cultivators here were only golden core stage experts. Who could stop them? Even if they could stop them for a moment, who would help them? I'm Ling Tian Sex Duan Yufei. I'll give 10 million level 8 spirit pills to whoever saves my junior sister. My junior sister is the direct descendant of the Ling Tian Sex sect leader, Xiaolanlan. The heavily injured young man was completely relying on his willpower to support himself. The young man, who was well-versed in the ways of the world, did not cry for help like the young girl. Even so, no one was willing to joke around with their own lives. No matter how many spirit pills there were, they would not be able to enjoy them if they lost their lives. Who was Duan Yufei? He was the super genius who was ranked 9th among the inner court disciples of the grade 9 sect, Ling Tian sect. He had long stepped into the half-step nascent soul stage. Even he was running for his life. Most of the people present were at the intermediate and mastery stage of the golden core stage. There were only a few at the peak of the mastery stage of the golden core stage. Who would dare to go up? The red flame beast's breath could burn them into ashes. When he saw the two of them, Chunhao had already merged with heaven and earth. Although he did not have the thought that saving a life was better than a 7-story pagoda, if he could save 2 lives by lifting his hand, Chunhao still did not mind. Not to mention, the young man was so protective of a woman that it was worth Chunhao to do so. Of course, Chunhao was not sure if he could kill the red flame beast. Moreover, now was not the time. A great battle that he had no confidence in was still waiting for him. However, the safety zone was right in front of him. Blocking it for a while was not the slightest problem. But the young man's words caused Chunhao to be slightly stunned. Ling Tian sect, Xiaolanlan. Could it be that she was Yu Yu's sister? Junior sister, goodbye. Save her. Duan Yufei looked at the indifferent crowd that was only 100 miles away. He did not dare hesitate, nor did he have the time to hesitate. Suddenly, he looked deeply at the young girl and said with determination. Without giving the young girl time to react, he suddenly swung his arm and used all his strength to throw the young girl away. Hiss! Ah, no! The young girl realized something and screamed in terror and despair. 7-star alignment break. A clear voice could be heard all of a sudden. The young man, who had completely given up on resisting and exhausted his last bit of strength, was falling. His eyes were filled with affection, anxiety, and anticipation as he stared at the red figure that was rapidly approaching the palace. He did not think that he was already in a dead end. His only hope was that Xiaolanlan could survive and be rescued by others into the palace. However, at this moment, a clear and cold voice sounded in his ears. Immediately, he felt his body being forcefully thrown away. At the same time, he saw a dazzling and mysterious sword gleam. The energy was not strong. In fact, it was far inferior to his. However, the profound and incomparably sharp and indestructible aura contained in this sword gleam shocked him. Buzz, buzz. Screams erupted from the palace, from the mouths of the cultivators who were holding or carrying swords on their backs. Their swords actually showed signs of being unsheathed uncontrollably. However, what shocked them even more was that, at this moment, the terrifying red flame beast collided with the sword gleam that contained shocking sword intent. Boom! The earth shook and the mountain shook. The mountain-like red flame beast was actually split into two. Like a collapsing mountain, it rumbled and collapsed to both sides. The lava-like body instantly dyed the sky red, like the magma of a volcano erupting. How is this possible? So strong. Who could be so strong? Is this an expert of the nascent soul stage? Voices filled with shock and disbelief exploded in the palace. The cultivators who originally wanted to take advantage of the momentary opportunity that Duan Yufei had exchanged his life for to save Xiaolanlan in exchange for a huge sum of money had all forgotten to do so, dumbfounded. Hiss! A gust of wind blew past. Duan Yufei, who had not yet landed on the ground, was also grabbed by his clothes in shock. Then, Xiaolanlan, who had fallen less than 50 miles away from the palace, was also grabbed by someone and flew to the palace as fast as lightning. Senior brother, Xiaolanlan shouted weakly. Thank you. Duan Yufei did not answer Xiaolanlan. He looked at Chun Hao with difficulty and said. Everyone stared blankly at the young man in a white robe who was flying to the palace as fast as lightning. It's Chun Hao. It's Chun Hao. It's exactly the same as the portrait that Fan Fong took out. Too strong. What a terrifying sword intent. What a terrifying sword. Is he really only at the middle stage of the Golden Core stage? Who is Chun Hao? Some people who were just immersed in cultivation did not see the scene when Fan Fong arrived. After hearing someone call out his name, they could not help but ask. Chun Hao is the runner-up who tied with the champion of the 100 Empire rankings 2 years ago. Just now, the super genius of the sword faction, Fan Fong, went out to kill him. So strong. An early-stage Golden Core stage disciple, who knew the whole process but did not have the strength to follow and watch the show, stared at the rapidly approaching Chun Hao with eyes full of surprise and explained. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Chun Hao, who was flying over with one hand in each hand. Those who knew him and those who did not, without exception, were shocked beyond words. Because at this moment, they all clearly sensed Chun Hao's aura. He was only at the middle stage of the Golden Core stage, not the nascent soul stage master they had imagined. Roar! Just as everyone was shocked, the huge body of the red flame beast condensed again in the blink of an eye and burst out with a roar that resounded through heaven and earth. Retreat quickly! All the practitioners who were swarming at the entrance of the palace suddenly had no time to be shocked and retreated into the palace in horror. Chun Hao took 2 people into the palace in time. Bang! 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 In 2 breaths, the red flame beast approached the palace. Knowing that it was impossible for the red flame beast to enter the palace, these practitioners were still scared out of their wits. Roar! Roar! Boom! The red flame beast, whose dignity had been challenged, rushed over crazily, but when it reached the entrance of the palace, it was directly rebounded by a mysterious and terrifying light. Its huge body rolled for dozens of miles before it stood up and roared crazily. In a moment, it rushed to the entrance of the palace again, but this time it did not dare to approach. Instead, he roared angrily at the palace, especially Chun Hao. Weekly, I will update twice today. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 247. Some of the cultivators were still shocked by the roaring red flame beast that was guarding the only entrance of the safe zone. Its mountain-like body cut off the chance for anyone to get in or out. Oh no! Oh no! This red flame beast is guarding the entrance. We can't even go out to train. How long can it guard us? Those who have returned from training outside must be worse than us. Junior brother, junior sister, when tomorrow noon comes, I will activate the transmission talisman and go out first. Senior brother, what are you going to do? We have only been here for a month. This beast won't guard us for too long, right? It's best if you don't leave. I will go out and send the news back to the sect. This is a red flame beast with a mortal bloodline. If you can kill it and extract its blood essence, it will be priceless. It is definitely more precious than a high-grade spiritual weapon. Even nascent soul stage master can't really kill it. Others must have the same idea. However, our sect is the closest to here. As long as one of the inner elders comes, it will be enough. It's just 100,000 level 8 spirit pills. As long as you send the news back, you could buy a few as a reward. If you can get the blood essence of the red flame beast, the reward will be even greater. Many experienced cultivators with higher cultivation bases had the same idea. However, they could only wait until noon tomorrow to activate the transmission talisman, and it only lasted for a quarter of an hour. After all, the giant transmission array built by the Heavenly Armament Pavilion consumed a lot of energy to operate once. It could not be operated all the time. Otherwise, Duan Yufei, Xiaolan Lan, and the others would not be in such a desperate situation. They could just activate the transmission talisman. Chun Hao ignored the shocked eyes and the buzzing discussions of the crowd. He took Duan Yufei and Xiaolan Lan, who had fallen into a coma, and quickly flew into the depths of the palaces. The palaces in the safe zone could not be entered at will. Different levels of strength could only enter the palaces of different levels. If one's strength was not enough, the gate of the palace would not open. Once someone entered, the gate would be closed. No matter how strong one was, they could not open it. It was absolutely safe to cultivate in seclusion here. This was also the reason why all the cultivators dared to gather together. Otherwise, the safe zone would be filled with blood and flesh. Who would come here? Chun-Hao already knew the situation from Itoda. It wasn't until they reached the front of a huge palace in the core area that Chun-Hao stopped in front of everyone's gasps. He sent out a beam of energy and suspended the two unconscious people in the air. Then he pressed his palm against the door, and a majestic energy surged out. Rumble. Without giving the crowd much time to speculate, the palace doors rumbled open with a resplendent light. Chun-Hao's figure flashed, and he took a step in with the two of them. Soon after, the door of the palace slowly closed, and silence was restored. Too powerful, awesome. Who would have thought that Chun-Hao, who is only in the middle stage of the Golden Elixir realm, would have such strength? It was unbelievable. That sword strike from before was sufficient to prove that he possessed the combat strength of an expert at the peak of the late-stage Golden Core realm. Moreover, he was a super genius. Otherwise, it would be absolutely impossible for him to slash the Red Flame beast apart with a single strike. Now, being able to enter this palace was sufficient to show that his true essence was dense to the peak of the advanced stage of the Golden Core realm. Moreover, he's also a super genius. That's right. I've been here for half a year, and that row of palaces can only be opened by a few disciples at the peak of the late-stage Golden Core realm. He's rich. This Chun-Hao saved Xiaolanlan, the granddaughter of the Ling Tian sect leader. I'm afraid it's not as simple as the reward of medicinal pills, right? Moreover, there's also the super genius disciple of the Ling Tian sect, Duan Yufei. I'm so jealous. What's the use of being jealous? Cultivate diligently. If we have such strength, we'll be the ones who will be rich. It's hard to say whether we'll be rich or not. Even if we're rich, we'll still have to be alive to enjoy it, right? Chun-Hao's strength is not bad, but don't forget that Fan Fong is looking for him. I'm afraid it won't be long before he gets the news. The crowd discussed animatedly. Chun-Hao's strength was undoubtedly shocking. Slicing the Crimson Flame beast with a sword and blasting open the palace that could only be opened by a super genius at the peak of the advanced stage of the Golden Core realm with a palm was enough to shock everyone present. However, it did not mean that Chun-Hao was more powerful than Fan Fong. As for Duan Yufei, whom he saved, in everyone's opinion, he was not someone Chun-Hao could compare to. One must know that although Duan Yufei had almost died, it was absolutely astonishing that he was able to bring Xiaolanlan and escape to this place. The reason Chun-Hao could save them was entirely because of the safety zone. If there was no safety zone, no matter how strong Chun-Hao was, how many times could he cut the Crimson Flame Beast? How many times could he withstand the Crimson Flame Beast attacks? A genius disciple of a grade 9 sect possessed ultimate techniques and combat strength. Not to mention grade 6 and grade 7 sects. Even grade 8 sects could not be compared to them. This was because the gap between grade 1 and grade 8 sects had a certain value as the grade increased. However, there was a huge gap between grade 8 and grade 9 sections. It was not something that could be measured by the gap between grade 7 and grade 8 sections. In the entire Eastern continent, there were thousands of sects, but only 10 of them could reach grade 9. They were the best in the world and were the leaders. Even if Ling Tian's sect was slightly weaker among grade 9 sects, they could barely catch up with grade 8 sections. They could not be compared at all. Therefore, even Xiaolanlan, who was at the peak of the advanced stage of the Golden Core realm, was much stronger than Chun-Hao, let alone Duan Yufei, who was a super genius in Ling Tian's sect, who was ranked 9th. Even Fan Fong, who was a grade 6 sect's super genius, might not be stronger than Xiaolanlan. After stepping into the palace, Chun-Hao took out 2 healing pills that Yuan Tairan had given him and stuffed them into their mouths. Then, he urged his mind to wake the 2 unconscious people up. Immediately, Xiao Lanlan and Duan Yufei regained consciousness. However, their severely injured and weak bodies did not listen to him at all. They could only force their eyes open. Your lives are saved. Heal your injuries yourselves. As for my reward, just give it to me when you've recovered. I believe that a genius disciple of a grade 9 sect won't go back on his word. Chen Hao said calmly. Don't worry. Thank you. Duan Yufei said weakly with a hint of gratitude in his eyes. Xiao Lanlan originally had a look of gratitude, but after hearing Chen Hao's words, there was an obvious change in her expression. Although there was no disdain, there was no gratitude either. He had only saved her for the reward. You're welcome. I'm just doing it for the reward you mentioned, Chen Hao said calmly. Initially, when he decided to save them, he did not think about the reward. However, after knowing their identities, he had to accept the reward. Proud and unyielding, he didn't want to be associated with flattery, especially the people from Ling Tian's sect. He could not. May I ask, how should I address you, brother? Star-picking sect, Chen Hao. All right. Heal yourselves, Chen Hao said directly, since he knew he could not hide it anymore. He was about to walk out of the palace as he spoke. Hearing Chen Hao's name and sect, Xiao Lanlan's eyes were filled with shock as she stared at Chen Hao. Brother Chen, wait, Duan Yufei said. Chen Hao stopped and turned around to ask, is there anything else? I can give you the reward now. You can take everything in my storage ring. It's definitely worth more than 10 million grade, 8 spirit pills. Brother Chen, please give one of the little nirvana pills to my junior sister. Duan Yufei said strenuously. At the same time, he activated the remaining energy in his dantian to refine the healing medicine that Chen Hao had injected into his dantian. He could feel that the healing medicine was not bad, but it was too weak for his and Xiao Lanlan's injuries. It was not enough to describe him and Xiao Lanlan as being on the brink of death. Not only were their bodies severely injured, but their energy was almost completely depleted as well. With Chen Hao's medicine, it would take at least a few months for them to fully recover. Hearing Duan Yufei's words, a faint blush appeared on Xiao Lanlan's pale face. She naturally knew how precious the little nirvana pill was. In the sect, only the top 10 disciples in the inner sect would be rewarded with a healing medicine by the sect leader. However, she did not reject it, because as the granddaughter of the sect leader, she also had one. Little nirvana pill. Chen Hao was slightly taken aback as he stared at Duan Yufei and said, You're telling me this now. Aren't you afraid that I will kill you and swallow the little nirvana pill? You shouldn't be afraid. A grade 9 sect is not something that our little star-picking sect can offend. Furthermore, so many people have seen it. But if you're a little more discreet, it seems that it's possible to make one of you die from serious injuries. Chen Hao, you are actually this kind of person. Hearing Chen Hao's words, Xiao Lanlan did not know where the strength came from, but she actually stared fiercely at Chen Hao and called him by his name with an extremely strange expression. Junior sister, don't misunderstand. Brother Chen Hao is not that kind of person. Before Chen Hao could say anything, Duan Yufei stopped him and said, Brother Chen, please. Although Chen Hao felt that Xiao Lanlan's gaze was a little strange, he did not suspect her. He smiled slightly and did not continue to threaten the two as he directly channeled his energy into Duan Yufei's body. Duan Yufei borrowed Chen Hao's energy to activate the storage ring, and a jade bottle emitting a milky white light immediately floated in front of Chen Hao. Brother Chen, I have already erased the imprint on the storage ring. Take it. Thank you, Duan Yufei said. Chen Hao smiled slightly and opened the jade bottle first. With a thought, a fiery red crystal pill flew into Xiao Lanlan's mouth. Immediately, without needing Chen Hao to do anything, rays of red light rose from Xiao Lanlan's body, and a strong medicinal fragrance immediately filled the entire space. At this time, Chen Hao took off the storage ring on Duan Yufei's hand. The little nirvana pill is really not bad. Chen Hao did not look at the things in Duan Yufei's storage ring and directly kept it. He stared at Xiao Lanlan, who had already sunk into extreme pain, and said softly, with a complicated expression in his eyes, He could sense that Xiao Lamlin's injuries were quickly recovering and would definitely be completely healed in less than an hour. But at this moment, his mind was thinking of the devastatingly beautiful Xia Yuyu. Not long ago, he had almost been killed by Xia Yuyu's shock. It was because he had swallowed Xia Yuyu's nirvana pill, a nirvana pill that was countless times more precious than the little nirvana pill. Lightly shaking his head, Chunhao turned around and stepped out of the palace. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 248. Roar, roar, roar. The moment Chunhao stepped out of the palace, the roaring flame beast guarding the entrance of the safe zone roared even louder. Obviously, this monster had been paying attention to Chunhao from dozens of miles away. So vengeful and powerful. With this guy guarding the entrance, I'm afraid no one will be able to enter or leave in a short time. Except for me. Chunhao's lips curled up slightly. When he saw that everyone's eyes were on him again, he hurriedly walked to the adjacent huge palace. After entering the palace, Chunhao sat down cross-legged, took out Duan Yufei's storage ring, and immersed his mind into it. No wonder he's a super genius of a 9th-rank sect. What shocked Chunhao was that Duan Yufei's high-grade storage ring was definitely of the highest quality. Generally speaking, high-grade storage rings were more than 10 meters square and were not fixed. The larger the space, the higher the price. As long as it was 10 meters square, it was considered a high-grade storage ring. However, the space in Duan Yufei's storage ring was 60 meters in length and 10 meters in height, which was equivalent to a small palace. Thousands of milky white crystals were neatly piled together. They were middle-grade primal crystal stones. Primal crystal stones could only be used when one entered the Khanate realm, which was the Saint realm. Even Khanate realm experts would only be willing to use them when they were breaking through the barrier. They were extremely precious. However, for golden elixir realm experts, primal crystal stones were essential for cultivation. They were much more precious than level 8 spiritual pills and the rarer level 9 spiritual pills. And this was in the case of lower-grade primal crystal stones. In theory, 100 level 8 spiritual pills or 10 level 9 spiritual pills could be exchanged for one lower-grade primal crystal stone. However, under normal circumstances, no one would be willing to exchange primal crystal stones for elixirs. This was because primal crystal stones were essential for cultivation for experts above the golden elixir realm. Using food as an analogy, level 8 and level 9 spiritual pills were simple meals, while primal crystal stones were delicious dishes. Middle-grade primal crystal stones were even more precious. One was equivalent to 10 lower-grade primal crystal stones, which was also theoretical. If one really wanted to exchange for elixirs, they could definitely exchange for 12. 5,500 mid-grade primal crystal stones are equivalent to 66,000 low-grade primal crystal stones. One low-grade primal crystal stone is equivalent to 100 level 8 spirit pills, which is equivalent to 6,600,000 level 8 spirit pills. In addition to the mid-grade primal crystal stones, there were nearly 13,000 low-grade primal crystal stones, 40,000 level 9 spirit pills, and 1,300,000 level 8 spirit pills. All of these added up to about 10 million level 8 spiritual pills. Moreover, there were countless large pieces of ores and other items that were obviously of great value in the storage ring. Even without careful calculation, Chunhao knew that the value of Duan Yufei's storage ring far exceeded 10 million Tier 8 spirit pills, or even 20 million Tier 8 spirit pills. Phew! Chunhao let out a long sigh, and a smile appeared on his face. Although he didn't expect to get a reward, he really got it, especially when he saw such a shocking amount of wealth. Chunhao suddenly felt that it was worth it. He deserved it, and he deserved it, even if he was a little reluctant to take it. But they did it willingly, didn't they? It was a fair trade, wasn't it? I'm afraid Fanfong will take at least 2 hours to come back. This red flame, beast, won't be able to stop him from coming in. I'll recover to my peak state first. Chun Hao didn't use much energy to save Duan Yufei and Xiaolongan, but he used at least 1/5 of his energy to cut the red flame beast in half. Facing Fan Fong, who was half a step away from the nascent soul stage, Chun Hao didn't dare to let his guard down. Taking a deep breath, Chun Hao took out a mid-grade primal crystal stone, pressed his palms on it, and began to refine and absorb the purer and more majestic energy within. Whoosh! Fan Fong's body moved like lightning, and he returned to the safe zone as fast as he could. Die, die, die. This time I'll chop this son of a bitch into meat paste and refine his soul. His soul will be destroyed, and he will never be reincarnated. I'll avenge my sister, and Tantai Lien, who hasn't come out yet. Fan Fong had suppressed his anger for 2 years, and the closer he got to the safe zone, the more intense it burned. However, he was still a little worried about whether Chun Hao's words were true or not. But he could only believe it for now, because he couldn't find Chun Hao. The beautiful girl in the blue dress was silent, although Fan Fong, who was half a step away from the nascent soul stage, had increased his speed to the maximum. The girl's body was like a flickering shadow, and she always maintained the same distance from Fan Fong. However, the terrifying aura emanating from Fan Fong's body made the girl frown. Hey, what are you running for? A stream of light suddenly shot out from a fork in the road. Seeing that the figures had increased their speed to the maximum and were rushing toward the safe zone, this figure appeared beside a cultivator who was running wildly and asked condescendingly, "What's the matter?" We're chasing Fan Fong, the super genius of the Flying Sword sect, Fan Fong. The disciple was startled when he sensed the terrifying aura coming from the figure, and hurriedly answered truthfully. Fan Fong of the Flying Sword sect? Yes, we're just here to watch the fun. Fan Fong wants to kill Chun Hao of the star-picking sect, and that Chun Hao is also a super genius. Super genius my ass. After the figure understood what was going on, he said disdainfully, and then turned into a streak of light and sped away. Chun Hao, the runner-up of the 100 Empire ranking, who tied with Long Yihan. It's said that he's good friends with Long Yihan. He must be the one who killed the disciple of the Flying Sword sect. I'd like to see how powerful the little 100 Empire ranking is. This figure was none other than the inner disciple of the Myriad Pill Pavilion, Niawan Shan, who ranked first among the top 10 experts. He was the guy who had moved the positioning disc and ruined Chun Hao's plan. At this moment, his handsome face flashed with a hint of viciousness. He had originally thought that it was Lung Yihan who had killed the disciple of the Flying Sword sect, but based on the current situation, it should be Chun Hao. Chun Hao, who was good friends with Lung Yihan. Naturally, he had to rush over to see if he could find Lung Yihan. With his strength increased again, he was confident that he could kill Lung Yihan here. What a beautiful girl. Her strength is not bad either. With his astonishing speed, Niawan Shan quickly overtook countless cultivators and caught up to the front. At this moment, he saw a graceful figure in a blue dress. Through the black veil, he could vaguely see the girl's beautiful face. Suddenly increasing his speed again, Niawan Shan appeared beside the beautiful girl like lightning. The girl frowned slightly, and a cold aura suddenly burst out. Miss, don't misunderstand. I'm Niawan Shan, ranked first among the inner disciples of the Myriad Pill Pavilion. May I know your name? Niawan Shan smiled slightly and said. The viciousness on his face had long disappeared without a trace. His eyes were bright and full of expression, and he did not hide his admiration for the beautiful girl at all. He cupped his fists in a cultured and elegant manner. Niawan Shan was confident that with his reputation in the cultivation world and his handsome and elegant appearance, he would have no problem winning the favor of this beautiful girl. The first among the inner disciples of the Myriad Pill Pavilion seems to be Lung Yihan, right? What Niawan Shan did not expect was that although the girl had put away her fighting spirit, there was a hint of sarcasm in her tone as she glanced at Niawan Shan. Her voice was very pleasant, but it carried a chill that made one's hair stand on end. Niawan Shan's face darkened. If anyone else dared to say this in front of him, he would have killed them with a slap. But now, He suppressed the anger in his heart and said with a smile, "Miss, you're well informed. However, you probably don't know that Lung Yihan defeated me completely by relying on a despicable sneak attack, right? Hee hee. Lung Yihan also came to the Black Wind ancient cave. If nothing unexpected happens, you will soon know who is the real number one of the Myriad Pill Pavilion. With me, there will be no other. Is that so? Then I'm really looking forward to it." The girl said lightly, and in the depths of her beautiful eyes, an imperceptible chill flashed. "May I know your name? Which high-level sector are you from?" Niawan Shan's face flashed with confidence as he asked again. "Chen Shui, a loose cultivator," the girl said coldly. "Good name. I didn't expect Miss Chen Shui to be a loose cultivator with such cultivation. What a pity. Miss Chen Shui, are you willing to join our Myriad Pill Pavilion? With Miss Chen Shui's age and cultivation, I only need to say a word, and the sect will definitely give you special treatment as an inner disciple." "Sorry, I'm not interested in the sect." "Hiss." After the beautiful girl finished speaking, she suddenly sped up. Obviously, she didn't want to be with Niawan Shan. "You're arrogant." "Not bad." Niawan Shan didn't care at all. He smiled and followed her again. Such a beautiful girl with such cultivation would definitely have countless suitors. If it was easy to get her, she would have become someone's cultivation partner long ago. He wouldn't have stayed until now. To Niawan Shan, it was a great opportunity for him to meet her this time. How could he not be patient? Red Flame Beast? Fan Fong, who was rushing at full speed, sensed the terrifying aura of a demonic beast hundreds of miles away. He was originally wondering why there was such a terrifying demonic aura in the safety zone. When he got close, Fan Fong suddenly stopped. 300 miles away, he stared in horror at the mountain-like red flame beast blocking the entrance of the palace area. Roar! Roar! The terrifying roar of the beast seemed to contain monstrous anger. Phew! It's the red flame beast? How could it be here? The beautiful young woman and Niawan Shan, who had followed closely behind, also revealed a trace of astonishment in their eyes as they thought to themselves. The three of them didn't dare to approach recklessly, and they all restrained their auras. They knew how terrifying the red flame beast was. Once it caught up, even they wouldn't be able to escape. Fortunately, this was the safety zone. It wouldn't be a problem for them to resist for a while and escape into the safety zone. However, what puzzled them was that the red flame beast clearly sensed their arrival, but it didn't rush over. It just guarded the entrance of the palace and roared angrily. While Fan Fong, Niawan Shan, and the beautiful girl were hesitating, some cultivators had arrived one after another. They couldn't help but cry out in horror. "I've been waiting for you." Fan Fong's face flashed with a hint of viciousness, and he suddenly rushed toward the entrance of the safety zone. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 249. The more people there were, the more targets there would be. Fan Fong was sure that he could resist the red flame beast for a while, but if the red flame beast did not give him time to get into the safe zone and chased after him, it would be a tragedy. Fan Fong, who had already noticed the two experts behind him, did not take them into account, because he knew that the beautiful woman's aura was extremely obscure, and her speed was definitely not inferior to his. The other expert who had just chased after him was Niawan Shan. Fan Fong had known him for a long time, but they had not interacted with each other. He knew how strong Niawan Shan was, and it was impossible to tell who would win before they really fought. Therefore, it was unlikely that these two people would become his scapegoats. But it was different now. Among the cultivators who came one after another, some who knew the terror of the red flame beast were fine, while others felt the terror of the red flame beast, but were not very afraid. In their opinion, with so many experts present, how could a demonic beast overturn the sky? Hiss! Fan Fong turned into a stream of light. His aura was still restrained, but his speed was not as fast as before. Sure enough, it was as he expected. Many cultivators who did not know the immortal body of the red flame beast saw Fan Fong rushing to meet it head-on and immediately wanted to take advantage of the situation and follow him. Miss Chin Shui, let's go, we also whoosh. The beautiful girl turned a deaf ear to the flies around her. She ignored them and directly turned into a streak of light. Obviously, she had already lost the most basic patience after being harassed by the flies for an hour without any sense of shame. Humph, what's there to be proud of? None of the women that I, Nye Wan Shan, value can escape from my hands. You're just a rogue cultivator. If it weren't for the fact that you have some weight, I would have tolerated you a little longer. If you had crossed my bottom line, don't blame me for reversing the order and conquering your body first, then your heart. Nye Wan Shan thought in his heart, staring at the graceful blue dress. A touch of imperceptible lust flashed in his eyes. He took a step forward and rushed out as fast as lightning. The three experts have rushed out. What are you waiting for? Now is not the time to lose. Let's go. Now is the time to rush into the safe zone. Senior Brother Fan is going quick. Those who could chase after Fan Fong to watch the show were naturally extremely curious disciples. At this moment, they naturally wouldn't give up. Although it was a little dangerous, cultivators live their lives in danger. With so many people, it was nothing compared to the perilous experience. As long as there was a sliver of a chance, they could rush into the safe zone. Fan Fong is rushing over. There's so many cultivators. This is going to be interesting. It can't be. What a stunning woman. Who is that? His aura seems to be stronger. Fan Fong, the stunning beauty, and Nye Wan Shan, who had caught up from behind, took the lead. The three of them knew that if they worked together, it would be easier to deal with the red flame beast and rush into the safe zone. Roar! As Fan Fong and the others charged toward it. The red flame beast turned and let out an enraged roar. This roar was obviously different from the previous one. It was like a clap of thunder that pierced through the heavens. It contained a terrifying aura that seemed capable of destroying the heavens and extinguishing the earth. All of the demonic beasts within a 500-kilometer radius prostrated themselves on the ground, their necks tucked in and their bodies trembled. Some early-stage golden elixir realm cultivators fell from the sky like dumplings being dropped into a pot. Sound wave attack. Get out of my way. Sword raining meteor cut. Fan Fong shouted. Mountain piercing fist. Sky pointing finger. Fan Fong, Nye Wan Shan, and the stunning beauty, who were in the lead, displayed their powerful skills one after another when they were about 1,000 feet away from the red flame beast. Their restrained aura suddenly burst out to an extremely terrifying level. Almost at the same time, Fan Fong displayed the sword raining firmament skill, the unparalleled skill of the sword raining sect. He pinched his fingers together, and the sword itself contained a terrifying aura that seemed to tear the void apart. Nye Wan Shan condensed a golden fist that exuded an ancient mystery, containing a terrifying aura that was no weaker than Fan Fong's. The stunning beauty pointed out a finger, and the surrounding space froze. The violent and thick energy of heaven and earth gathered madly in her jade-like finger, which was emitting an icy blue light. However, the jade-like finger did not expand at all, and it still looked like a real person's finger. Compared to the mountain-like red flame beast, it was even smaller than an ant in front of an elephant. However, its light became brighter and brighter, more and more condensed, and the incomparably fierce and invincible aura shocked countless cultivators in the safe zone who were watching this scene. So powerful. One is Fan Fong, and the other is the super genius Nye Wan Shan, who is ranked first in the 7th grade sect, the Myriad Elixir Pavilion. I'm afraid their strength is about the same. Who is that stunning beauty? She's also very strong. I'm afraid she is no weaker than the two of them. Strange. With such strength and such a peerless beauty, how can she not be famous? How can you even know her, senior brother? Most likely, she is a super genius from a powerful sect who just came out to gain experience. Otherwise, it is impossible that no one knows her. When the crowd saw the powerful attacks of the three experts, they instantly broke into a discussion. Especially the stunning beauty. It was not strange that no one knew her, but it was a little strange that the countless disciples present who often went out to gain experience did not know her at all. The only explanation was that she was a disciple who had just come out to gain experience. Such situations often occurred in powerful sections. It was not rare for sects that had ultimate techniques that required a pure and untainted soul to cultivate. For example, the ninth grade sect, Ling Tian sect, had an ultimate technique that required the purest soul to cultivate. Roar. Even a highly intelligent red flame beast could feel the aura of the three ant-like humans. They were not inferior to the hateful Chun Hao in the slightest. Even compared to Duan Yufei, who was almost killed by it, there was not much difference. Therefore, at this moment, it stretched out its arm that was 1,000 feet long. With a roar, a fist the size of a small mountain blasted toward the three people's attacks. Boom! 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 3 terrifying explosions sounded almost at the same time. Fan Fong's sword abruptly dodged the roaring flame beast's fist at an amazing speed, then turned into a huge light screen, slashing towards the roaring flame beast's neck. The roaring flame beast's lava-like body was cut into 2 halves by the neck. The stunning beauty's ant-like finger shot directly between the red flame beast's eyebrows. With a loud bang, it pierced through the red flame beast's body. Crash! The red flame beast's lava-like body immediately collapsed. However, this time, the collapse was like a mountain torrent that rolled toward the 3 of them. Break! 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 Boom! 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 The 3 of them frantically activated their strongest protective true origin energy to force back the lava that contained the red flame beast's terrifying will that burned everything. At the same time, they turned into 3 streaks of light that were as fast as lightning. With a loud rumble, they successfully rushed into the safe zone. Swoosh! 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 Some cultivators with higher cultivation seized this critical opportunity and swarmed into the safe zone like a swarm of locusts. However, some of the weaker disciples who did not accurately estimate the red flame beast's power and whose protective true origin energy was broken by the terrifying temperature of the lava halfway through the safe zone. They screamed miserably and were set ablaze. Then, they turned into ashes without leaving even a trace. The gold cores in their bodies became the red flame beast's nourishment. This horrible scene scared some of the cultivators out of their wits, and they quickly retreated. Roar! The roar that resounded through the heaven and earth became the alarm bell that signaled the red flame beast's bloodlust. With the nourishment of the gold cores, the red flame beast took shape again in just a breath's time. Its aura became even more terrifying. The lava-like energy condensed into numerous fireballs and shot down the cultivators who were fleeing in panic. As for the disciples who did not hesitate and continued to rush forward, although they were severely injured, they succeeded. When enemies meet on a narrow path, the brave will win. In fact, many of the dead could have fought their way through, but they had lost their courage and could only die. What a terrifying guy! The beautiful girl in her blue dress was untainted by a speck of dust. She completely ignored the burning gazes and turned to stare at the red flame beast behind her, thinking to herself, it had to be said that a beautiful girl, especially a powerful one, would attract the most attention no matter where she went. Fan Fong and Nie Wanshan were equally powerful, but almost all eyes were focused on the stunning blue dress. Son of a bitch, Chun Hao, get out here. Fan Fong did not give the crowd much time to wait. With a sudden explosion, like a thunderclap, the whole palace trembled. Some of the weaker cultivators activated their protective true origin energy and quickly retreated. Senior brother, this Fan Fong is not as strong as Chun Hao, right? Chun Hao cut the red flame beast in half with a single sword strike. The 3 of them joined forces. It's hard to say. It doesn't matter whether they joined forces or not. Chun Hao hid his aura and launched a sneak attack. Fan Fong and the other 2 fought head-on. Besides, didn't Fan Fong cut the red flame beast in half with a single sword strike? Let's wait and see. The show is about to start. Could Nie Wanshan and the girl be the experts that Fan Fong has invited? I don't think so. These people are very concerned about their own reputations. They would not join forces against Chen Hao, who is only at the intermediate golden core stage. Son of a bitch. How dare he call him son of a bitch? No one objected to Fan Fang's words, but the girl in the blue dress, beautiful eyes hidden under the black veil, shone with an undetectable murderous intent. At that moment, everyone's eyes were fixed on a huge palace. Fan Fang's sharp senses naturally picked up on the crowd's discussion. Coupled with the crowd's gaze, he was instantly sure that Chen Hao was not lying to him, and that he was in that palace. Hiss! Fan Fang turned into a ray of light and rushed to the entrance of the palace where Chen Hao was. Son of a bitch, come out. Today, I, Fan Fang, will tear you to pieces and destroy your soul. Fan Fang roared and slammed his palm on the palace door. Fan Fang knew that he would not be able to break it, but he could not suppress the anger in his heart. The expression on his face became ferocious and terrifying. He had waited for this day for too long. Now, he could finally avenge his beloved sister. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to Conceited. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 250. Another word, son of a bitch. Fan Fang's mind was only filled with the desire to avenge his sister and tear Chen Hao to shreds. He didn't notice that not far away, the girl in the blue dress was biting her lips under the black veil. Her eyes once again emitted a strong, killing intent that was bone-chilling. Niawan Shan, on the other hand, had noticed the blue dress girl's strange behavior. However, at this moment, both he and the blue dress girl were standing behind Fan Fang, and Fan Fang was standing at the entrance of the palace. From this angle, Niawan Shan could not help but misunderstand. He thought to himself, could it be that she also has a grudge against that Chen Hao? That's fun. Chen Hao is on good terms with Lung Yihan. I can use him to attack Lung Yihan. Fan Fang, right? Hiss. Niawan Shan's lips curled into a proud smile. In a flash, he appeared beside Fan Fang. What? Brother Nya, are you going to interfere? Fan Fang, who was furious, frowned and said coldly. If it were anyone else, he would have killed them. However, Niawan Shan was so powerful that he did not dare to. That's right, but you don't have to worry. I, Niawan Shan, am helping you. You can kill him. I just need to teach him a lesson. If I don't teach a son of a bitch on the 100 Empire ranking a lesson, I will be very unhappy. Especially if he is on good terms with Lung Yihan. Ahem, I forgot. You are also on the 100 Empire ranking. But I didn't mean to criticize you. Ha! Fan Fang's face became very ugly. If not for the fact that his goal was to kill Chen Hao, he would have already attacked Niawan Shan. Chen Hao is still not coming out. He must be afraid. Fan Fang's aura is indeed terrifying. He is half a step away from the nascent soul stage. I heard that he was half a step away from the nascent soul stage a long time ago. Based on his talent, he should have triggered the divine punishment long ago. The only reason he hasn't is because of Chen Hao's inner demon. That should be the case. The divine punishment does not only test the physical body, but also the state of mind. Even someone as strong as Fan Fang does not dare to be careless. The slightest carelessness will result in the destruction of both body and soul. No wonder Chen Hao would save Duan Yufei and Xiao Lanlan from Ling Tian's sect. He's so smart. It's obvious that he's waiting for Duan Yufei and Xiao Lanlan to help him after they've healed. Phew! Niawan Shan wants to participate as well? Interesting. So it seems that the girl in the blue dress is also with them? TSK. 3 against 3. Things are going to get interesting. They're all super geniuses. But Duan Yufei and Xiao Lanlan's injuries will take a long time to recover. Otherwise, Fan Fang and the other two won't stand a chance. When Fan Fang began to attack the palace gates and Niawan Shan intervened, the crowd was abuzz with discussion. Although they didn't know how long the stalemate would last, there was no doubt that once Chen Hao came out, he would erupt with something that was beyond everyone's imagination. These cultivators were looking forward to seeing such a battle between super genius disciples. If they could understand a thing or two, it would be beneficial to their own cultivation. Save Duan Yufei and Xiao Lanlan from the Ling Tian sect? What did he mean? Could it be that these two are also here? The crowd's discussion did not escape the ears of the girl in the blue dress. However, Nie Wanshan and Fan Fong, who had their own thoughts, were not in the mood to listen to the small fry's discussion. Hiss, hiss, hiss. At this moment, as soon as Nie Wanshan finished speaking, a dense aura suddenly came out of the palace where Chun Hao was. How's this possible? The aura of a breakthrough. Chun Hao is breaking through at this moment? The crowd immediately sucked in a breath of cold air. The mysterious and dense qi would only appear when one was breaking through to the next realm. Without a doubt, Chun Hao had entered the barrier of the intermediate aura's core stage at this critical moment. This was something that no one had expected. After all, Chun Hao's aura was only at the intermediate stage of the golden core realm. He had not even reached the peak of the intermediate stage. How could he break through to the intermediate stage now? Fan Fong's brows furrowed when he heard the crowd's discussion and exclamations. Initially, he was still hesitating whether he should agree to Nie Wanshan's request. However, at this moment, he nodded abruptly. A hint of viciousness flashed across his face as he said, "This son of a bitch killed my sister. I'll let him have a taste of qi deviation." Ha! Voila! The crowd burst into a buzz of discussion. How ruthless! Shameless! How could he do this? Lower your voice. Don't invite trouble. In the world of cultivation, interrupting the cultivation of others was a taboo. When others were breaking through to the next stage, no one was allowed to disturb them. This was especially true after the Golden Core realm. If a cultivator was disturbed while breaking through to the next stage, it was very likely that they would suffer qi deviation. At best, they would fail to break through and suffer physical and mental damage. At worst, their cultivation would be crippled. This was undoubtedly a very sinister and despicable thing to do. Fan Fong instantly gathered a huge amount of energy and was about to slam his palm on the palace doors. Scram! At this moment, what no one could have imagined was that a cold and furious roar suddenly exploded out. Hiss! A blue streak of light appeared in front of Fan Fong at lightning speed, and a jade-like hand like ice violently met Fan Fong's attack. Pung! There was a dull sound of energy colliding. The blue figure staggered back 3 steps, each step leaving a deep footprint on the hard stone floor. Fan Fong, on the other hand, took a step back. Only then did everyone see who had blocked Fan Fong's path. The girl in the blue dress. You want to help that son of a bitch? Fan Fong's eyes suddenly became murderous as he stared at the beautiful girl. Such shameless behavior. You're the son of a bitch. You are worse than a son of a bitch. If you have the guts, fight him fair and square. Yes, that's right. Miss Chun is right. Fan Fong, you're more or less a person. Interrupting someone's breakthrough is such a despicable action. You are at least a super genius of 6th-rank sect. This is unbearable. Nie Wanshan was stunned for a moment. Then, he took advantage of the situation and put on a sanctimonious look. He stared at Fan Fong and said with a trace of disdain in his eyes. Fan Fong's face turned ashen as he gritted his teeth. He did not take the girl in the blue dress seriously just because of the collision of their palms. At most, he could just destroy her. But Nie Wanshan's change of stance made him very angry. You're not a good person either. So what if you're a disciple of the 100 Empire ranking? I am a disciple of the 100 Empire ranking. If you want to fight, I will keep you company. What caused Nie Wanshan's expression to change greatly was that not only did the young girl in a blue dress not give him face in the slightest, her peerlessly beautiful eyes that were hidden under the black veil instead contain a wisp of piercingly cold, killing intent as she looked at him and spoke with disdain. Get out of here. Whoever dares to stop him from breaking through will die. Hiss! What happened next shocked everyone even more. The girl in the blue dress strangely disappeared before everyone's eyes. Not only did she disappear, but her aura also disappeared. Even an expert like Fan Fong could not capture any aura. What was even more shocking was that streaks of sharp and cold sword light were flashing at the entrance of the palace, like venomous snakes on standby, ready to launch a fatal attack at any time. Lung Yihan? No, it can't be Lung Yihan. Nie Wanshan's expression changed greatly. When he felt a pair of viper eyes vaguely lock onto him, he was shocked. This concealment technique was exactly the same as Lung Yihan's. But Lung Yihan was a man, and the one in front of him was a woman. The aura of the two were completely different, but the only similarity was their concealment technique. It must be related to Lung Yihan. F*CK. Could it be Lung Yihan's lover? You refuse a toast, only to be forced to drink a forfeit. No wonder you looked at me so coldly. No wonder you know so much about the matters of the Sword Clan. So you're Lung Yihan's man. Very good, very good. You have crossed my bottom line. Today Nie Wanshan, will let you know the consequences of playing tricks on me. *TCH. Boom. Nie Wanshan no longer had any scruples. He tore off his mask of hypocrisy. His expression was ferocious, and his aura erupted like a flood. At the same time, he said to Fan Fong, "Do what you have to do. Today, we will work together to kill this *TCH and those bastards of the 100 Empire ranking. There are 3 of them, and that *TCH Lung Yihan. Just like this *TCH, they're good at concealment. They must be around." Okay. Although Fan Fong was disgusted by those bastards of the 100 Empire ranking, he could only let it go at this point. After all, Nie Wanshan had already explained that he was not talking about him. As soon as he finished speaking, he did not need Nie Wanshan's reminder. His aura was raised to the limit. He, who was half a step away from the nascent soul stage, released a terrifying aura that was not inferior to Nie Wanshan's. The girl in the blue dress, who had concealed her aura, frowned. Her expression was grave. She was a little annoyed. Why didn't she hold it in? She should have held it in. At least wait for Chun Hao to come out. Now that she was facing one of them, she was confident that she could handle it. But if there were 2 of them, rumble, just as the battle was about to break out, everyone was confused. They did not understand the relationship between the girl in the blue dress, Fan Fong, Nie Wanshan, Chun Hao, and Lung Yihan, who had not appeared at all. Suddenly, a huge palace beside them opened with a rumble. Duan Yufei and Xia Lanlan came out together. 2 extremely powerful auras instantly shrouded the entire palace complex. Duan Yufei's gaze contained a soul-stirring power. Whoever dares to interrupt Chun Hao's ascension will die. Whoosh! Duan Yufei held Xia Lanlan's hand and appeared at the entrance of Chun Hao's palace as if he was taking a stroll. He completely ignored the girl in the blue dress's hidden aura. Firstly, the situation earlier was under his control. The girl in the blue dress was with them. Secondly, although the girl in the blue dress's concealment technique was so powerful that he could not see through it, Duan Yufei was confident that even if the girl in the blue dress wanted to attack him, he had enough strength to block it. Duan Yufei's voice was not cold, but coupled with his terrifying aura, it directly shook people's hearts. No one doubted the authenticity of Duan Yufei's words. Fan Fong and Nie Wanshan were a little stunned. They did not understand why Duan Yufei would suddenly appear and help Chun Hao. How could Duan Yufei and the others not know? He was the super genius who ranked 9th in the inner court of the grade, 9 sect, Ling Tian sect. Don't worry. As long as Chun Hao comes out, I won't interfere. You can fight however you want. It has nothing to do with me who lives or dies. Duan Yufei said calmly with a disdainful expression when he saw Fan Fong and Nie Wanshan's shocked eyes. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 251. Xia Lanlan only furrowed her brows, not saying anything. In truth, she didn't care about people like Chun Hao. He had saved them, but he had asked for a reward. If it had been someone else, Xia Lanlan would have treated it fairly and perhaps saved them. But this person was Chun Hao, and she only felt disdain for her sister. She was Xia Yuyu's cousin and had the best relationship with Xia Yuyu. No one knew Xia Yuyu's matters better than her. How could she not know Chun Hao? But Chun Hao had saved her, and even though he could guess a relationship with Xia Yuyu, he still asked for a reward, There was nothing wrong with him and a girl obtaining the Phoenix's inheritance, as that was fate. There was also nothing wrong with him not participating in the dragon transformation list, as he was threatened by Fan Fong. But he seemed to have forgotten Xia Yuyu's existence. This was something Xia Lan Lan couldn't accept. Fortunately, Duan Yufei had explained to her why Chun Hao had done this. Seeing Duan Yufei and Xia Lan Lan appear, the blue-dress girl no longer hid her aura and appeared beside them. Xia Lan Lan immediately shifted her gaze to the blue-dressed girl in the palace, although she knew that someone had appeared to protect Chun Hao, and it was a girl. She had only sensed it and hadn't seen the blue-dressed girl's true appearance. At this moment, the more Xia Lan Lan looked at her, the more she frowned. She was originally considered a rare beauty, but when she saw this young girl, she felt that she was overshadowed. She was just like her dazzling cousin, Xia Yuyu. Any woman who stood in front of her would uncontrollably feel ashamed of their inferiority. Could it be because of this girl that Xia Lan Lan thought, and then shook her head. From the conversation just now, it seemed that this blue-dress girl didn't know Chun Hao. Moreover, although the blue-dress girl made her feel inferior, in her heart, no one could compare to Xia Yuyu. What am I thinking? How could he be worthy of Yuyu? In these 2 years, the reason why Yuyu could not forget about it was entirely because Yuyu did not have any experience. When Yuyu reached the incarnation realm, her grandfather would let her begin to gain experience and truly come into contact with the cultivation world. There are many disciples in the Eastern continent who are more outstanding than him. He's just a disciple of a third-grade sect. His cultivation, talent, status are not worthy of Yuyu. Perhaps the girl in the blue dress sensed Xia Lanlan's gaze and looked at her. As for Xia Lan Lan, whose mind was racing, she arrogantly looked at the girl in the blue dress and turned her face away. The corners of the blue-dressed girl's mouth curled up slightly. She didn't understand where Xia Lanlan's hostility came from, and she didn't care about it. Rumble. At this moment, the dense aura emitted from the palace where Chun Hao was it suddenly began to soar. It was obvious that Chun Hao's breakthrough had reached a critical moment, and it caused the entire palace to rumble. Fan Fong's face turned extremely ugly. He stared at Duan Yufei and said, "Duan Yufei, this is a personal grudge between me and Chun Hao. Yearling Tian sect is a 9th-grade sect that's high and mighty. Don't tell me that you don't even follow the basic rules of the cultivation world." Fan Fong forcefully suppressed the rising anger in his heart. Even though Duan Yufei had said that he would not interfere in the battle between the two of them, but now, in front of so many cultivators, stopping him from interrupting Chun Hao's breakthrough was equivalent to not giving him face. It was no different from slapping him in the face. If it was not for the fact that the situation was compelling, he would not have tolerated it, even if it was a genius disciple from an 8th-grade sect. However, he had no choice but to tolerate a super genius from a 9th-grade sect. There's no need to talk about the Ling Tian sect. I, Duan Yufei, don't rely on the power of a sect to walk in the cultivation world. If you're not convinced, you can challenge me. Even if it's a personal grudge, it has to be fair and square. I don't like the shameless act of interrupting someone's breakthrough. If you don't have the confidence to defeat Chun Hao, then get lost. Don't embarrass yourself here. Don't talk about personal grudges. Aren't you just afraid that you won't be able to defeat Chun Hao when he advances? Duan Yufei said disdainfully. I'm afraid of him. He's just a son of a bitch. I, Fan Fong, just want him to beg for death. Rumble. Bang. Bang. Before Fan Fong could finish his sentence, an even more terrifying, dense aura suddenly came from the huge palace. At the same time, the palace's door opened violently, as if it was blown open by a gust of wind. He broke through? At this moment, everyone's eyes were filled with shock as they looked at the entrance of the palace. The overwhelming, dense aura shocked everyone, especially since everyone knew that Chun Hao had only broken through from the middle golden core stage to the late golden core stage. How could it cause such a huge commotion? Even Duan Yufei, Fan Fong, and Nie Wanshan were shocked, because even when he broke through to this stage, it was definitely not so terrifying. What did this mean? Chun Hao's breakthrough from the middle golden core stage to the late golden core stage was definitely stronger than theirs. The late golden core stage cultivators present were even more shocked. This breakthrough aura was on a completely different level compared to theirs. Only the girl in the blue dress was calm. There was no shock in her beautiful eyes, only a matter of fact. It was not that she could defeat Chun Hao, but that she knew Chun Hao better than anyone else. Phew! In the palace, Chun Hao felt the powerful energy in his body, and his face was filled with excitement. Even he did not expect that he, who was only in the middle golden core stage, could break through to the late golden core stage so quickly. Originally, when he stepped into the palace, he only wanted to adjust himself to the peak state to prepare for the battle with Fan Fong. Because until now, although Chun Hao had a certain understanding of his combat strength, he had not fought with a real super genius. Fan Fong, who was half a step away from the nascent soul stage and was a super genius, he did not have a clear idea of his combat strength. Even he did not have absolute confidence and had to be cautious. However, with his freakish recovery ability, he, who did not consume much energy to begin with, only took less than an hour to completely recover. And Fan Fong would have at least an hour to return. Of course, he would not waste time waiting. For the first time, he began to refine the mysterious existence in his mind. No matter what, he couldn't imagine that the mysterious existence would be so powerful. Now, it had only completed the most basic refinement, but it had consumed all the energy in his Dantian, which no longer belonged to Edo Tai. It was equivalent to the energy stored in Chun Hao's Dantian, and it was even more powerful than Edo Tai's late Yuanying stage. This made Chun Hao's heart ache. It should be known that this was one of the biggest gains he had made in the Seven Stars Cave Heaven for more than a year. Originally, he thought that with the existence of the nascent soul, it would be enough for him to break through to the nascent soul stage without spending any primal crystal stones. But now he had consumed all of it. The only thing to be happy about was that while he was refining the mysterious existence, he had also borrowed its energy to break through from the middle nascent soul stage to the late nascent soul stage. Moreover, at the moment of breakthrough, the violent energy emitted from his body uncontrollably blasted the door of the palace open. "Son of a bitch, get out here!" After a brief moment of shock, Fan Fong's angry roar resounded through heaven and earth, breaking the gasps of the crowd. Chun Hao, who had been immersed in cultivation, did not have the slightest awareness of the outside world. He did not know that because of him, more than 3,000 cultivators had gathered outside. At this time, Chun Hao, who was immersed in the excitement of the powerful energy, was awakened by Fan Fong. After that, his peerlessly handsome face flashed with a wisp of boundless coldness as he slowly stood up. Whoosh! In the palace, a fierce wind suddenly rose. A terrifying aura, accompanied by a soaring fighting spirit, spread out in all directions. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Chun Hao stepped out of the palace. His figure was as straight as a sword, and his expression was cold. When he saw Duan Yufei, Xiao Lanlan, and a beautiful girl standing closest to the entrance of the palace, Chun Hao frowned slightly. When he saw the arrogant Fan Fong and the powerful Nie Wanshan standing together, and the surrounding thousands of cultivators, Chun Hao frowned even more. Obviously, he did not expect the situation to be so lively. "Awoo! Awoo!" At this moment, to everyone's surprise, the red flame beast, which had finally calmed down, suddenly let out another roar. This time, it was even more ferocious than when it was attacked by Fan Fong, Nie Wanshan, and the blue dress girl. Its fiery red eyes stared fixedly at Chun Hao as it waved its huge fists. Its expression seemed to be completely different from Chun Hao. "This girl in blue is good to you." Just now, Fan Fong wanted to interrupt your breakthrough, but she stopped him. The other one with Fan Fong is called Nie Wanshan. He wants to join forces with Fan Fong to kill you, the girl in blue, and Lung Yihan. At this time, the information from the treasure-hunting sword's spirit appeared in Chun Hao's mind. While Chun Hao was cultivating, the treasure-hunting sword spirit had been paying attention to the situation outside, so it was very clear what had just happened. Lung Yihan. Yes, it seems that the girl in blue and Lung Yihan are cultivation companions. I'm not sure about the rest, but I just heard it. Lung Yihan should also be in the Dark Wind Cave, but not here for the time being. The girl in blue is very strong. She dared to fight Fan Fong and Wanshan alone. However, her strength should not be as strong as the two of them. Fortunately, Duan Yufei and Xiao Lanlan, who you saved, arrived in time. Duan Yufei stopped Fan Fong. Otherwise, the girl in blue would have fought with the two of them. The treasure-hunting sword's spirit said. Chun Hao and the treasure-hunting sword's spirit communicated telepathically, and it was completed in an instant, allowing Chun Hao to understand what had just happened. Many thanks to the three of you for stopping this mad dog for me. Chun Hao did not even look at Fan Fong. His gaze swept across the girl in blue, Duan Yufei, and Xiao Lanlan, and he cupped his fists. Brother Chun, you're too polite. The rest is up to you. Duan Yufei smiled slightly and stared at Chun Hao. He was looking forward to it. He also wanted to see how strong Chun Hao, who had just entered the late Golden Core stage, was. It's just a mad dog. Chun Hao did not say anything else. He took a step forward and rushed directly to a huge training field in the palace complex. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 252. Let's see how long you can keep up your stubbornness. Boom. Fan Fong's energy was already at its peak, and as he flew towards the fighting arena in the safe zone, he suddenly burst into a dazzling light. Along with the powerful true core and the domineering aura of a half-step nascent soul cultivator, he was like a blazing sun, dispersing the gloomy clouds. What was even more shocking was that as the light flickered, one could faintly see the phantom of a ferocious beast with a strange appearance above Chun Hao's head. The phantom wasn't large, but it gave people a terrifying feeling that it could trample on the earth and hold up the sky, as if it could break through the heavens and tear the void apart at any moment. Fan Fong's ferocious face was cold, and his entire body was suffused with a terrifying aura that made people not dare to look directly at him. What a terrifying aura! Is this the true power of a half-step nascent soul cultivator? Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Many of the cultivators who had gathered around the fighting arena were shocked by Fan Fong's terrifying aura. Chun Hao, that reckless fool, is dead for sure this time. I have never seen Senior Brother Fan release such a terrifying aura before. Senior Brother Fan is going to use his ultimate move. Do you see that image? That should be the mysterious legacy that Senior Fan Fong obtained, and I have never seen Senior Fan use it before. There's nothing much to see after this. I'm afraid that once Senior Fan makes his move, Chun Hao, that arrogant fool, will be smashed into minced meat. Several disciples of the Sword faction were full of confidence in Fan Fong at this moment, and they looked at Chun Hao with disdain as they discussed. Fan Fong had never shown his true power in the ranking battles of the inner disciples of the Sword faction, not because he could hide it, but because no one had the ability to force him to use his ultimate move. But now, before the battle had even begun, Fan Fong had already raised his aura to such a level. How terrifying would it be? The inheritance of the Demon King of Tianluo? Duan Yufei and some of the more knowledgeable disciples gasped when they saw the image above Fan Fong's head. Even they did not expect Fan Fong to have such a terrifying hidden power. What is that? Xiao Lanlan frowned and asked Duan Yufei. The blue-dress girl and some cultivators not far from the two of them also pricked up their ears. Tianluo Demon King, one of the most powerful, ferocious beast kings in ancient times. He was ferocious and aggressive, and his combat power was above that of the primordial divine dragon. I never thought that Fan Fong would be able to obtain his inheritance. I'm afraid Chun Hao is in trouble. Duan Yufei said softly as he narrowed his eyes and stared at Fan Fong and Chun Hao who were standing in the middle of the training field. "Senior brother, you're not allowed to attack. We no longer owe him anything. Whether he lives or dies, it's up to him," Xiaolanlan said after being slightly surprised. "Junior sister, I know what you're thinking. Don't worry, I won't do anything since." Duan Yufei nodded and said. At this moment, he and Xiaolanlan had experienced a life and death crisis. They had pierced through the last layer of paper and officially confirmed their relationship. Moreover, because Xiaolanlan had stopped Duan Yufei from helping Chun Hao, she naturally told him about Xia Yuyu's matter. But he still helped because he had also risen to his current position step by step. He more or less knew why Chun Hao asked for a reward. With the inheritance of Tian Luo Demon King, Fan Fong's strength is not much weaker than mine. The blue dress girl frowned slightly, and her expression became particularly serious. She couldn't help but move to the front. The terrifying aura emanating from Fan Fong's body made it clear that even she had no chance of winning. Hundreds of feet away, Chun Hao, who was standing proudly, showed a trace of seriousness in his eyes when the terrifying shadow bloomed above Fan Fong's head. That terrifying aura and pressure made Chun Hao realize that Fan Fong was much more powerful than he had imagined. He had just stepped into the late Golden Core stage, and whether in terms of true essence or aura, he was no match for Fan Fong, who was half a step away from the nascent soul stage and had a powerful inheritance. Although he was not afraid, Chun Hao, who had originally wanted to fight Fan Fong head-on, changed his mind at the last minute. "In 10 moves, I, Fan Fong, will make you beg for death. I will kill anyone who stands in my way." After releasing the aura of Tian Luo Demon King, Fan Fong's temperament had undergone a shocking change. The powerful feeling made him look down on everything in the world with disdain. Even the feeling of Duan Yufei, who had been holding back a moment ago, had completely disappeared. "So what if you're a 9th-rank sect? I will trample you under my feet." Fan Fong's gaze slowly swept over the blue dress girl, Duan Yufei, Xiaolanlan, and the others. Seeing the shocked expressions on their faces, he became even more arrogant. "Son of a bitch, kneel down now. Kneel 3 times and kowtow 9 times to my sister's soul in heaven, and I will let you die a quick death. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death. When I am done torturing you, I will chop off your dog head and destroy your soul so that you will never be reincarnated. Don't think about running away. Today, no one can save you." Fan Fong stared coldly at Chun Hao again and said coldly, "You really are a mad dog. Since that is the case, how about we fight to the death? In front of everyone, there will only be life and death, no victory or defeat, until one side dies. No one is allowed to run. No one is allowed to ask for help." Crash, to everyone's surprise, Chun Hao, who was obviously at a disadvantage, said something so cold that it made the surrounding cultivators widen their eyes. Originally, everyone thought that with the support of Duan Yufei and the blue dress girl, no matter how powerful Fan Fong was, he would not be able to win with his arrogant and provocative words. But Chun Hao's words had ruined all his chances of survival. Although Duan Yufei and Xiaolanlan had agreed not to help Chun Hao, they still looked at each other in shock. Niewan Shan, who was also a little shocked, stared at Chun Hao and thought disdainfully, "He is as arrogant as that son of a bitch Lung Ihan. Even I have no chance of winning against Fan Fong's aura. What does he have? When this guy is dead, it will be time for me to ravage that bitch Chun Shui." Niewan Shan thought to himself as he looked at the blue dress girl. In his heart, he was sure that the blue dress girl was definitely related to Lung Ihan. She's indeed a bitch. Damn bitch. Not only does she have an ambiguous relationship with Lung Ihan, she is also so concerned about this Chun Hao. Could it be that the 3 of them have an even more despicable relationship? Niewan Shan looked at the blue-dressed girl's expression. "Good. Although you are not worthy of fighting with me, Fan Fong, I have to admit that you do not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Son of a bitch, let me see what makes you so confident." Roar. As soon as Fan Fong finished speaking, It was obvious that he could no longer suppress his anger towards Chun Hao. He took a step forward and merged with the phantom of the Tianluo Demon King above his head. Then, the Tianluo Demon King roared into the sky. An earth-shattering roar exploded in the void like thunder. Roar. What frightened everyone was that at this moment, the red flame beast guarding the entrance of the safe zone actually let out a roar. However, what was different from before was that this roar actually contained a trace of fear. When some people looked at the red flame beast, they were shocked to find that the red flame beast was actually running away from the safe zone as if it was scared out of its wits. Even the red flame beast could not withstand the aura of the Tianluo Demon King. How powerful! Duan Yufei and some cultivators who knew about the Tianluo Demon King were all shocked. Tianluo roaring fist, injure him. Fan Fong roared and punched out. As the light surged, a few hundred feet of distance was crossed in an instant. The terrifying fist shadows seemed to have condensed into an inescapable net. With a rumbling sound, it contained the power to destroy heaven and earth and brazenly enveloped Chun Hao. The Tianluo Roaring Fist was one of the Tianluo Demon King's inherited unique skills. The Tianluo Roaring Fist covered the sky and earth. Just these two words alone meant that this was an all-encompassing and sealing attack. Fan Fong used this move because when he was on the 100 Empire ranking, he knew that Chun Hao was adept at concealment when he was at a lower level. In fact, Fan Fong was absolutely confident that he could destroy Chun Hao in one move. However, that would be letting Chun Hao off too easily. He wanted to make Chun Hao completely terrified and thoroughly trample on him before killing him. Of course, he couldn't waste any of these 10 moves. Otherwise, if he allowed Chun Hao to fight freely, it would be ineffective. He only used 70% of his strength for this move. His goal was to severely injure Chun Hao. Even so, the power of this move still shocked countless cultivators. Hiss, boom, boom, boom. Wherever the fist shadows passed, the air seemed to be torn apart. The wind created by the fists tore deep trenches in the hard ground. Gravel flew everywhere as the energy wreaked havoc. Looking at the rapidly expanding fist shadows, Chun Hao's handsome face shone with coldness and solemnity. His body flashed as he used the 7 stars footwork. He moved as fast as lightning and began to move within a small area. At first, when people saw Chun Hao move, they thought that Chun Hao was avoiding Fan Fong's attack. However, after a moment of sparks, they found that Chun Hao was only moving within a radius of 10 feet around him. He did not avoid the fist shadows at all. Moreover, what surprised them even more was that Chun Hao seemed to be moving in 7 fixed positions, shining like bright stars. At the same time, Chun Hao's hands were changing into various hand seals at lightning speed. Waves of powerful, true energy fluctuations whizzed out from his dantian. Every time his body moved in a circle in 7 directions, the fluctuations on his body would increase layer by layer like bamboo. 7-star sword finger, 1 finger sky pivot. When Fan Fong's fist shadows were only 200 feet away from Chun Hao's cold voice suddenly rang out. At the same time, a loud buzzing sound came from his body. He pointed out a finger. Hiss, hiss, boom, boom. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to Conceited. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 253. However, the shadow of the fist that had destroyed the giant finger, when it came into contact with Chun Hao, who was still moving rapidly in 7 different directions, it only caused a few ripples before it dissipated into nothingness. Obviously, Fan Fong had the upper hand, but it was only a slight one and posed no threat to Chun Hao. Humph, the 7-star sword finger, very good. You must have learned it from the 7-star Cave Heaven. Second move. Fan Fong was slightly shocked by Chun Hao's strength after his first move had failed to achieve the desired effect. Without giving Chun Hao any chance to breathe, he suddenly closed in on him and increased his strength to 80%. Cultivators could kill people from 100 or even 1,000 miles away, but strength was still strength, and would always be affected by distance. Even the most powerful cultivator was no exception. For the same strength, the closer the distance, the more powerful it would be. The further the distance, the weaker it would be. Therefore, the true pinnacle of battle was often close combat, where one's body was used as a weapon to fight against his opponent. Only in this way could one's strength be maximized. Fan Fong had shortened the distance of a few hundred feet to 100 feet. Even if he threw out the same punch, the damage to Chun Hao would be at least twofold. In addition, he had increased his strength by another 10% and used the second move of the Sky Roaring Punch. He believed that this punch was not something Chun Hao could withstand. 7-star Sword Finger, Second Finger Sky Jade. Sensing the surge of Fan Fong's power, Chun Hao's expression did not change. His clear voice contained an unparalleled sharpness. His movement speed suddenly increased, and the dazzling starlight became even more intense. What shocked Fan Fong and the crowd was that Chun Hao seemed to have formed a doppelganger. One doppelganger split into two, and the two doppelgangers pointed their fingers in the air at the same time. Their postures and angles were completely different, but they pointed at the same time. What did this mean? Those with lower cultivation levels might have thought that Chun Hao's movements were too fast, and it seemed like they were done at the same time. However, Duan Yufei, Xiaolan Lan, the blue dress girl, and Yaoan Shan were all shocked. This was because it was definitely not Chun Hao's phantom. Of course, it was definitely not Chun Hao's avatar. After all, Chun Hao was only at the late stage of the Gold Core realm. It was impossible for him to have the magical power of the Incarnation realm. What a powerful 7-star finger sword. No, it should be a set of unique skills. Chun Hao's footwork had actually condensed into a mysterious formation. Through the formation, the two fingers that he had shot out exploded at the same time. Moreover, the coordination was flawless. His strength and combat strength were definitely not as simple as doubling. At this moment, Chun Hao's combat strength was definitely equivalent to 3 Chun Haos. This might be the power of an Earth-class top unique skill. Duan Yufei's eyes lit up as he stared at Chun Hao and thought to himself, how could the Star-Seizing sect possess such a powerful technique? Xiaolan Lan stared at Chun Hao in shock as she thought to herself, the 7-star finger sword must be the unique skill that he obtained from the 7-star cave heaven. The blue-dressed girl's beautiful face, which was hidden under the black veil, revealed a look of surprise as the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Chun Hao's display of such power made her feel relieved, but at the same time, a little unhappy. This was because rumble, a terrifying explosion, interrupted everyone's astonishment. To everyone's surprise, this time, Chun Hao's giant fingers actually shattered Fan Fong's fist shadows, which were much more terrifying than the first punch. However, the remaining giant fingers did not pose a threat to Fan Fong. After the fist shadows dissipated, they were easily destroyed by Fan Fong's protective, genuine vitality. However, such a small change meant that Chun Hao, who was at a disadvantage, had gained a slight advantage. Few as expected. After easily gaining the upper hand, Chun Hao thought to himself, a combination of unique skills that can double your combat power. Although this 7-star unique skill is a little low level, it is very suitable for the current you. An old, deep voice without any emotion said mechanically in Chun Hao's mind. It was the mysterious existence in Chun Hao's mind. After Chun Hao completed the basic refinement, he could communicate with it directly. However, this guy's voice was really unpleasant to the ears. Every time Chun Hao heard it, he felt as if he was facing a lifeless, emotionless robot. However, according to what the treasure-hunting sword spirit had secretly told him, this was already good enough. Perhaps only Chun Hao could enjoy the emotionless voice of the mysterious existence. The treasure-hunting sword spirit himself and the 5 mythical beasts had to endure the arrogance, and boundless pressure of the mysterious existence. Chun Hao communicated with the mysterious existence in his mind. In fact, under the 7-star formation formed by the 7-star steps, Chun Hao used the second finger of the 7-star sword finger. Merak. Although it was called Merak, in reality, It was the same as the second level of the Golden Man that Chun Hao encountered in the Seven Stars Palace. It was a combination of the Dubhe and Merak formations. It made Chun Hao seem as if he had become two people. Moreover, the two of them cooperated flawlessly. How much could his combat power increase? At least, Chun Hao, who originally only had a 30% chance of winning but had coldly forced himself into a corner, now had a 40% chance of winning. His fighting spirit soared. Although Chun Hao knew very well that Fan Fong had not used his full strength, and he had already raised his strength to the limit, he was not afraid at all. Instead, he was looking forward to the extent that he could unleash the power of the seven-star sword finger. Show me your true strength. Otherwise, it's not enough. At this moment, Chun Hao, whose fighting spirit was high, stared coldly at Fan Fong and said arrogantly. However, because he was constantly using the Seven Stars footwork and maintained the circulation of the Seven Stars formation, it caused everyone to be utterly unable to see his appearance clearly. Even his voice seemed to be circulating within the profound formation. When it was transmitted out, it was indistinct and unfathomable. It was countless times louder, like the evening drum and morning bell, shocking to the extreme. Even Chun Hao himself did not expect the seven-star formation to be so mysterious that it could even amplify sound waves. Good. I didn't expect a bastard like you to have some strength. You can actually block 70% of my strength. Since that's the case, I'll show you the true strength of Fan Fong. Wrath of the Demon King. Fan Fong took a step forward. This time, he did not hold back. His body seemed to tear the void apart, turning into a stream of light and landing 1,000 feet away from Chun Hao. Fan Fong, who had gathered all his energy in his fist, punched out at Chun Hao, who was moving quickly in front of him. Roar! There was no shadow of the fist, only Fan Fong's fist. To everyone's horror, the huge phantom of the Demon King of Tianluo was condensed to the extreme at this moment. It had shrunk thousands of times and completely condensed on Fan Fong's fist. The sound of the fist breaking through the air became the roar of the Demon King of Tianluo. As the fist punched out, a majestic, vital essence whistled between heaven and earth. The energy of heaven and earth in the air became violent. Even more shocking was that in an instant, the space behind Fan Fong seemed to have been emptied. With his fist, the air behind him and the hard rock ground behind him were lifted up. Pieces of rock the size of hills and compressed energy exploded, carrying a destructive aura. Fan Fong's fist was as fast as lightning, covering the sky and earth as it attacked Chun Hao. So powerful, so powerful. Is this Fan Fong's true strength? This punch, let alone a punch, I can't even withstand a chi explosion. Even a piece of rock could kill me. Countless cultivators were shocked. Even some of the cultivators at the peak of the Mastery Golden Core stage were no exception. Fan Fong's previous two moves could not be compared to this one at all. His aura and power had increased by many folds. It was like a punch from a 3-year-old to a punch from a 20-year-old. The difference was like heaven and earth. I need to use 90% of my strength to block this punch. Duan Yufei's eyes narrowed. I can only dodge this punch. The girl in the blue dress frowned slightly. Can he block it? I can barely block it. Xiao Lanlan thought to herself. This Fan Fong is so powerful. I'm afraid only the top 10 inner disciples in the Ling Tian sect could defeat him. Nye Wanshan's face was a little pale. When Fan Fong revealed the inheritance of the Demon King of Tianluo, although he was surprised, he did not think Fan Fong had the ability to defeat him. However, Fan Fong's punch made him realize that even if he could block it, he would be severely injured. Moreover, this was only Fan Fong's third move. It was definitely not his trump card. He had to admit that he was no match for Fan Fong at the moment. 7-star sword finger, third finger fecta. The moment Fan Fong threw out his punch, Chun Hao's hurried voice sounded. After a slight pause, he said, "Fourth finger fecta, break it." In an instant, the two moves merged into one. Chun Hao could clearly feel the energy in his dantian being crazily sucked out after he had hurriedly launched 2 moves. He felt a little depressed in his heart. 7-star sword finger, especially when combined with 7-star footwork, required one to advance step by step and advance step by step. One move after another had to be continuous and complementary. Only in this way could it be smooth and natural. However, Chun Hao had irritated Fan Fong, causing Fan Fong to directly increase the power of his attack by several times. Just from that aura alone, Chun Hao knew that it was impossible to block it with just the 3rd finger. Left with no other choice, he could only forcefully raise his Zhen Yuan and break the norm, launching the 3rd and 4th finger in succession. Bang! 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 Immediately, the entire world seemed to explode. The raging energy formed a terrifying hurricane that swept out in all directions. The cultivators surrounding the martial arts practice field quickly retreated in fear. Even so, most of them were forced to use their true essence to resist the flying stone fragments and the hurricane. What was even more shocking was that Fan Fong's Wrath of Heaven was not a short, instantaneous attack. Instead, it was continuous, wave after wave, forcing Chun Hao, who had split into 4 doppelgangers, to continuously attack with his finger. They were in a deadlock. Explode. Hiss. Roar. After a few breaths of time, Fan Fong's Wrath of Heaven was finally unleashed. His whole body was like an arrow, streaking across the sky. In the blink of an eye, he was right in front of Chun Hao. The demon king of Heaven's net, who was condensed in his fist, roared again. Heaven and earth shook, and a terrible, indescribable energy fluctuation suddenly erupted. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 254. Chun Hao had been prepared for this moment. He took a deep breath and pushed his inner yuan to the limit. Pure and majestic inner yuan gushed out of Chun Hao's dantian. 5 fingers of jade. The moment Fan Fong stepped out, Chun Hao's cold voice and Tian Luo Demon King's angry roar exploded at the same time. Chun Hao's 4 doppelgangers suddenly became 5. 6 fingers of sun opening, 7 fingers of light shaking. Immediately after, Chun Hao's voice rang out continuously, and the doppelgangers became 6, then 7. The moment the 7 doppelgangers were formed, the world darkened. Chun Hao stood in the position of the 7 stars, his clothes flapping in the wind. A bright star seemed to have been born between his eyebrows. The 7 stars were shining. The world lost its color. A mysterious and profound aura instantly filled the air. Everyone felt as if they were under the night sky, bathed in the cold starlight of the 7 stars. Everyone's sound, light, and perception were swallowed up. What was more shocking was that even they felt as if time had stopped and they were enveloped by a terrifying aura. Break for me. These 3 cold words finally came out of Chun Hao's mouth when everyone felt suffocated. As the word break came out of his mouth, the space seemed to be torn apart. Chun Hao's 7 doppelgangers suddenly merged into one and pointed a finger. All the energy waves disappeared. All the sound disappeared. In the world, the only thing that could be seen was Chun Hao's sword finger, as bright as the stars. It was filled with endless mystery as it met Fan Fong's terrifying fist. The 2 weapons met in close combat. The fist and finger collided. There were no fancy moves or illusions formed by energy. But everyone present, including Duan Yufei, felt an extreme sense of danger. Fan Fong's sinister, ferocious face instantly froze. He could actually sense the threat of death from Chun Hao's finger. Poof! In the silence of heaven and earth, the fist and finger collided. Then a soft, piercing sound suddenly rang out. Chun Hao and Fan Fong seemed to have fallen into a state of complete stillness, not moving at all. The sword fingers formed by Chun Hao's forefinger and middle finger disappeared, as if they had all merged into Fan Fong's fist. Pooh! A mouthful of blood spurted out from Chun Hao's mouth. The entire martial arts practice field erupted with countless screams. This was especially true for the blue-dressed young lady. At this moment, the corners of her dress fluttered and her clothes fluttered. Her beautiful face that was hidden under the black veil was filled with boundless coldness and an aura that could destroy all things. However, after spitting out a mouthful of blood, Chun-Hao's eyes were still as bright as stars and as cold as a sword. His body remained motionless. Then, under countless shocked gazes, fine cracks slowly spread out from Fan Fang's fist. Die! Crack! With his mouth full of blood, Chun-Hao spat out 2 words in a low voice. To everyone's horror, Fan Fang's body made cracking sounds and blood spurted out from Fan Fang's body. Ah, impossible, impossible! Fan Fang's terrified scream tore through the sky. However, no one could stop his body from collapsing. The 7 mysterious sword fingers set off monstrous waves in his body, wreaking havoc everywhere. Boom! Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Chun-Hao's body was still as straight as a sword. He grabbed the air, and Fan Fang's storage ring floated into Chun-Hao's hand. At the same time, Chun-Hao's body rumbled, and a raging fire rose up around him. Absorb! Ah! With his body destroyed, Fan Fang let out a scream of horror, unwillingness, and humiliation. As a half-step nascent soul cultivator, his soul power was unusually strong. Although he was still a yin body, he could show his form. Everyone stared blankly at Fan Fang's illusion, which was his soul, which was surrounded by Chun-Hao's vermilion bird heavenly fire. Then, crackling sounds of burning could be heard. The illusion disappeared, and his divine soul was destroyed. How is this possible? Fan Fang hadn't used his trump card yet. Cries of surprise exploded in the entire dojo. Even Duan Yufei wore a look of disbelief. No one had expected that Fan Fang would be defeated by Chun-Hao's terrifying skill in the 3rd move. Everyone thought that although Fan Fang's move was powerful, it should not have been his final trump card. How could it be destroyed so easily by Chun-Hao? Was Chun-Hao's attack too mysterious, or was Fan Fang's strength really this weak? Hiss! While the crowd was still in shock, Chun-Hao turned into a ray of light and flew quickly towards a huge palace. However, his body was shaking slightly. It was obvious that he was at the end of his rope. At this moment, it was obvious that he wanted to enter the palace to treat his injuries. Let's go, let's go! Several disciples of the Flying Sword sect were filled with fear. Even though they could see that Chun-Hao probably had no battle power left, they didn't dare to step forward. Chun-Hao was a severely injured tiger, and a casual wave of his claws could tear them apart. Moreover, Duan Yufei, the girl in blue, and other experts were present. At this moment, even if they had 10 times the guts, they wouldn't dare to act recklessly. They all retracted their auras and quickly retreated. Through the crowd that was still in shock, they rushed toward the smaller palace. As long as they could hide in the palace, they would be able to escape by noon the next day. Whoosh! The girl in blue turned into a ray of light and chased after Chun-Hao. Duan Yufei hesitated for a moment. Then, he grabbed Xiao Lan Lan, who was still in shock, and chased after her. You're badly injured. Let me heal you. The girl in the blue dress appeared beside Chun-Hao in the blink of an eye and said. What surprised Chun-Hao even more was that she had grabbed his wrist. Hiss! At this moment, in fear, Chun-Hao immediately performed the carving technique that allowed him to merge with everything in the world. Although this girl in blue had helped him before, they did not know each other. If she had any evil intentions, Chun-Hao would not be able to resist. But what shocked Chun-Hao was that she also merged with everything in the world. However, she did not try to grab Chun-Hao's wrist. Instead, she transmitted a sentence that shocked Chun-Hao. I'm your sister. Am I my sister? Chun-Hao's mind raced. The fact that she could merge with everything in the world made Chun-Hao realize that she was not an enemy. She was most likely a disciple of a nameless old man like Lang Yihan. But he did not expect the girl in blue to say that. Sister, my name is Chun Shui, the girl in blue said again. At the same time, she grabbed Chun-Hao's wrist. Immediately, a vigorous and pure true yuan rushed into Chun-Hao's dantian, not allowing Chun-Hao to refuse. You are the daughter of a nameless old man and my father? Eh. Duan Yufei and Xiao Lan Lan were both shocked, especially Duan Yufei. Even with his cultivation, he instantly lost track of Chun Hao and the girl in blue's aura. He could only vaguely sense a faint fluctuation in the air, but he could no longer sense it. The two seemed to have disappeared in front of him. Although it was only for a moment, the two appeared again. That feeling was very real. Oomph. Senior brother, let's go. I don't want to see him again. Xiao Lanlan saw the girl in blue holding Chun Hao's wrist. She had a glimmer of hope because of Chun Hao's strength, but her expression suddenly changed. Without waiting for Duan Yufei to refuse, she pulled Duan Yufei and flew into the air. In an instant, they rushed out of the safe zone and disappeared from everyone's sight. The girl in blue naturally heard Xiao Lanlan's words. She frowned slightly, a little confused. No matter how she listened to it, Xiao Lanlan's words sounded like she was sulking with Chun Hao. But she and Duan Yufei were intimate, and they had already confirmed their relationship. Although she felt strange, she did not ask. She just pulled Chun Hao and quickly landed in front of Palace. Chun Shui, you bitch, are you trying to hide? Get back here. Nia Wan Shan, will settle the score with you. Boom. Nia Wan Shan, who did not dare to fly into a rage, saw Duan Yufei and Xiao Lanlan leave. What was there to be afraid of? Even if Chun Shui had an affair with Chun Hao, it was nothing. Chun Hao was already a lamp without oil. He had no combat power at all. What was there to be afraid of when a tiger without teeth and claws met a real wolf like him? His only opponent was Chun Shui. Taking advantage of Lung Yihan's absence, Chun Hao, who was on good terms with Lung Yihan, and then suppressed Chun Shui. This was undoubtedly the best result. Even if he could not suppress her, he could just kill her. Get lost. I'll deal with you later. Chun Shui executed a peerlessly fierce sword light with a wave of her hand, and it arrived before Chun Shui and forcefully forced Nia Wanshan, who was charging over violently, to retreat. Then, as fast as lightning, she rushed to the door of the palace, opened it directly, and flashed in with Chun Hao. Rumble. The door of the palace was closed. No matter how powerful Nia Wanshan was, he could not do anything. His face became gloomy, and he was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. The power of Chun Shui's instantaneous attack was beyond his expectations and had already made him frown. Now that the two of them were in the palace, once Chun Hao recovered, without hesitating for long, Nia Wanshan left quickly. He dared to fight Chun Shui. But what about Chun Hao after he recovered his combat power? He would not dare to do so even if he had 10 guts. What are you looking at? In the palace, 2 hours later, to Chun Shui's shock, Chun Hao, who had a freakish recovery ability, actually slowly opened his eyes. His body emitted a wave of energy that made Chun Shui's heart palpitate. It seemed that he had become even more terrifying than before the battle with Fan Fong. However, the moment Chun Hao's bright and deep eyes opened, he looked straight at Chun Shui, who was covered by the black veil. Chun Shui could not help but say. There was a trace of dissatisfaction in her voice. How could he look directly at a girl with such eyes? Especially when the two of them were sitting very close to each other and were sitting cross-legged. Are you really my sister? Can you take off your veil and let me see? Chun Hao said. Dream on. Do you think I'm lying to you? That's not it. It's just that. Just what? Your life aura is erratic, and there's no trace to follow. I can't sense the aura of my father's bloodline. However, although I can't see clearly, you should be very similar to my sister Xiao Yin. Take a look. As Chun Hao spoke, the saber in his hand suddenly flashed, and white crystal fragments flew. In a moment, a beautiful girl appeared in front of Chun Shui. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 255. This should be what my sister looks like now. When she reaches your age, she'll look very similar and be able to pass off as the real thing. However, it's impossible for your temperaments to be the same. Chun Hao stared at the girl in the blue dress. After a slight pause, he continued, My sister is lively, cute, and smart. When she grows up, she'll definitely be gentle, quiet, and understanding. You, on the other hand, are too cold. Humph. Chun Shui snorted. She was even more displeased. Chun Hao had praised his sister like a flower. She was looking forward to a better evaluation of herself, but all she got was cold, especially when Chun Hao spoke of his sister. His gaze was gentle and filled with love, but when he spoke of her, it was as if he was talking to a stranger. We're about the same age. I'm 21, and you're not even 18. Are you trying to usurp the throne? If you don't want to, then forget it. You're wearing a veil when talking to your brother. How do you expect me to recognize you? Take off the veil, and I'll recognize you. If I don't, I won't recognize you. No, my master. Mother said that I can't take off the veil in front of anyone. It's fine if you don't recognize me, but I don't care. Remember, if you don't want to die, you'd better activate the teleportation talisman at noon and leave this place. Otherwise, if the disciples of the Flying Sword faction send back the news that you're in the ancient Black Wind Cave, they'll probably do something to you. Goodbye. Chun Shui turned to leave. Fan Fong was a super genius of the Flying Sword faction. If he died, the faction would be the first to know. However, it wouldn't be the seal of life and death, but the longevity tablet. At Fan Fong's level, even if there was a seal of life and death on his soul, it would be removed. Otherwise, it would become one of the factors that restricted his growth. Chun Hao was well aware of this. However, the longevity tablet wouldn't. It was only connected by aura. When Fan Fong died, his longevity tablet would shatter. However, they wouldn't know where Fan Fong was placed. However, the other disciples of the Flying Sword faction would definitely send back the news. Wait, what? You have to tell me which faction you're from and how to find you before you leave, Chun Hao said. You don't even recognize me. So why are you looking for me? I didn't say that I don't recognize him. It's just that I can't say it out loud. After all, we are still strangers, aren't we? Besides, even if I don't look for you, my father will look for you in the future. In 2 months, I will go to the 100 Empire rankings. I will also make a trip back to the mortal world to give the things your mother gave me to father. Why don't you come with me? Chun Hao said. Chun Hao originally wanted to lift Chun Shui's veil, so he deliberately did not admit it, because Chun Shui gave him a very, very familiar feeling. There were 2 reasons for this familiarity. Firstly, although she and her younger sister Chun Yin had different temperaments, their appearances were extremely similar. Secondly, with Chun Hao's sharp soul intuition, he felt that Chun Shui's words, actions, and eyes didn't seem to be the first time they met. He always felt strange, and the strange thing was Chun Shui's veil. Although Chun Hao felt that this veil was exactly the same as an ordinary veil, and he couldn't grasp any mysteries, his sharp soul intuition made him feel that this veil was definitely not an ordinary veil. In addition, with the treasure-hunting swords whispering in his mind, he was even more certain that Chun Shui's veil was definitely a treasure, and a very high-level treasure that could hide one's aura. In other words, the aura he felt now was definitely not Chun Shui's real aura. Then who was she? Lung Yihan? Chun Hao had thought about it before. After all, Lung Yihan had some characteristics of a woman. Small hands, the occasional loss of voice, etc., all had that kind of aura. But Lung Yihan was a real man, so it shouldn't be fake. Chun Hao could feel a bloody aura from Lung Yihan that only men had. It was an aura that women couldn't have. So he could only rule out Lung Yihan. If that wasn't the case, Chun Shui was most likely Lung Yihan. It would be very easy to explain, and there would be no doubts. I'm not going. I recognize you. But that doesn't mean I'll recognize him. My mother has forgotten everything now. She only knows that I'm her disciple, but she doesn't know that I'm her daughter. I only found out when I saw the message my mother left me. You don't have to look for me. The things my mother left him naturally have my identity. If he wants to find me, he can find me. I'm leaving. Chun Shui, who was hidden under the veil, frowned. Her expression became extremely complicated, as if she couldn't control her emotions. Obviously, this matter had affected her much more than Chun Hao. After speaking, she didn't give Chun Hao a chance to speak again. She directly pushed open the palace door, turned into a stream of light, and disappeared into the sky. Her speed was so fast that even Chun Hao couldn't do it. Chun Hao sighed softly and shook his head helplessly. He understood how Chen Shui felt at this moment. It was difficult for him to recognize a sister that he had never met. Moreover, to recognize a father who was abandoned before he was born. Once, Chen Hao also thought that he was a child abandoned by his biological parents. What was he thinking at that time? Even if there was, he wouldn't recognize it. Chen Shui came to help him and recognized him as her brother. She was already much stronger than he was back then. She's still stronger than me. It seems that I have to work harder. After flying out of the safe zone, the girl in the blue dress who called herself Chen Shui gritted her teeth. Her face flashed with a touch of determination, and as fast as lightning, she flew towards the area that wasn't shown on the positioning disc. After a few hours, when she was sure that there was no one around, the girl in the blue dress stopped in a dead hole and gently took off her black veil, revealing a beautiful little face. He must have noticed that my veil isn't ordinary. However, he shouldn't be suspicious, Chen Shui said to herself. As she spoke, the veil shone with a mysterious light and actually merged into her body. At the same time, her graceful figure completely changed in an instant. There were no longer any curves. Similarly, her beautiful face also quietly changed. However, she had just finished changing and was still wearing the blue dress. She looked a little nondescript and almost like a transvestite. She frowned and said, "No, if I happen to meet him again, I'm afraid he'll be even more suspicious. It's better to use my real face. Even the red flame beast can appear. I'm afraid it'll be lively tomorrow." Immediately, the black veil covered her face again. She regained the appearance of the girl in the blue dress. Whoosh! A figure shuttled back and forth in the black-wind ancient cave as fast as lightning and had already entered the area that wasn't shown on the positioning disc. This figure was Chun Hao. After Chen Shui left, Chun Hao didn't waste any time and directly left the safe zone. There were only 2 months of training time. Chun Hao didn't need to change places. He didn't care about Chen Shui's reminder. 2 months' time was enough for him to master the concealment technique. If he couldn't defeat his opponent, there would be no problem for him to escape quietly. 2 days later, under the guidance of the treasure-hunting sword spirit, Chun Hao obtained 5 low-grade spiritual weapons and a lot of black iron ores. Although the demonic beasts he encountered were powerful, for Chun Hao, they were really no challenge. Therefore, Chun Hao could only continue to go deeper and deeper. At this moment, he was about to walk out of the area covered by the transmission talisman. Just as Chun Hao turned into an enormous underground tunnel that was thousands of meters wide, he saw an enormous whirlpool that seemed to be flowing slowly like lava 100 miles ahead. It was particularly striking in the gloomy cave. Underground Cave Mansion. From Edo Ta, Chun Hao had learned that there were countless underground caves in the Black Wind ancient cave. However, in the past 2 days, Chun Hao had discovered many underground caves, probably because he was within the range of the transmission talisman. However, although Chun Hao had discovered many underground caves, they had all been taken by others. It was the first time Chun Hao saw an underground cave mansion guarding the lava whirlpool. Although there were already more than 10 cultivators sitting cross-legged in front of the lava whirlpool. "She's here too," after seeing the dazzling girl in the blue dress in the crowd. Chun Hao's figure flashed and quickly flew over. Another one. What a majestic blood chi. Not long after Chun Hao rushed in, a figure strangely appeared at the fork in the road. He was dressed in a black robe, and his face was so pale that it was devoid of any color. It was like a freshly painted wall, but his lips were bright red as if he had applied lipstick. His whole body was filled with an extremely cold aura that made people's hair stand on end. A total of 15. 13 of them are at the peak of the late stage of the Golden Core realm. That beautiful girl's aura is obscure. At most, she is at the peak of the late stage of the Golden Core realm. This guy who just came is only at the late stage of the Golden Core realm, but his blood chi is stronger than anyone else. Not bad, not bad. It's enough for me to have a good meal. The zombie-masked figure said eerily. His aura was filled with a strong demonic aura. Obviously, he was a demonic cultivator and was half a step away from the nascent soul realm. With me, we can open it. After the figure finished speaking, the demonic aura around him suddenly disappeared. At the same time, he took out a human skin mask and put it on his face. In an instant, he became a handsome young man with a graceful demeanor. With this middle-grade spiritual artifact, the Thousand Illusion Mask, even a nascent soul realm cultivator can't sense my aura. It would be better if there is a big harvest in this cave mansion. Hiss. His figure flashed, and this handsome young man, who looked like a gentleman, rushed toward the lava whirlpool as fast as lightning. Ha! Another lone traveler. Not bad, not bad. Only one more is left. It would be best if there is another lone traveler. That way, we won't have to compete for the right to enter. When Chunhao appeared in front of the 14 people, one of the cultivators who was at the peak of the Golden Core realm said happily after sensing Chunhao's cultivation level. Especially after sensing that Chunhao was only at the Golden Core realm, he was even happier. Upon closer inspection, the lava whirlpool restriction in this underground cave mansion had 16 small whirlpools that looked like black holes evenly distributed in it. This meant that this underground cave mansion was a rare level 4 cave mansion. It required 16 people to activate their energy at the same time to open it. In the Black Wind Ancient Cave, there were usually 4 levels of cave mansions. A level 1 cave mansion required 4 people to open, a level 2 cave mansion with 8 people, and a level 3 cave mansion with 12 people. A level 3 cave mansion was very rare. To be exact, in this area of 100,000 miles, it was rare to not have a complete cave mansion, let alone a level 4 cave mansion. In a level 4 cave mansion, the chances of obtaining a middle-grade spiritual artifact were very high. It was even possible to obtain a superior-grade spiritual artifact. This was definitely a great opportunity. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 256. Chunhao's gaze swept across Chun Shue's group of 14 and instantly determined that these cultivators were divided into 4 battalions. Chun Shue was alone, and 2 of the 13 were in groups of 5. The cultivator who spoke just now was in one of the groups of 5, and the 3 cultivators who had restrained their auras were in another group. My luck is pretty good, Chunhao said with a faint smile to Qin Shui, who was sitting alone but frequently attracted the attention of others. After speaking, he didn't mind the gazes of the 13 people and walked over to Qin Shui. In the eyes of the crowd, Chunhao's luck is pretty good implied that he met the beautiful girl in the blue dress. He's so reckless. If he could get close to this beautiful girl, would he even have a chance? He's only at the late stage of the Golden Core realm. I seem to be able to see this kid spitting out blood. The 13 people looked at Chunhao with ridicule in their hearts. Half an hour ago, when the girl in the blue dress arrived, these young disciples were naturally attracted by her peerless appearance and tried to get close to her. Unfortunately, the girl in the blue dress who concealed her aura didn't give anyone a chance. When a solo cultivator from a 7th grade sect tried to use his strength and identity to act frivolous, he was seriously injured by the girl in the blue dress in one move and lost the qualification to enter the underground cave. Because if he continued to stay here, not only would he lose face, but he would also be killed by the girl in the blue dress. He could only scram. To everyone's surprise, the distance Chunhao approached the girl in the blue dress completely exceeded the limit of ordinary men and women. When he was only a meter away from the girl, he smiled and sat down. What made these guys even more puzzled was that the girl in the blue dress's aura didn't change at all. She actually allowed Chunhao to sit beside her. Damn it, is this gigolo so good? He's just a little more handsome than us. Did you follow me here? Chun Shue's beautiful eyes hidden under the black veil looked at Chunhao and frowned. She immediately turned her head and asked through voice transmission. It's just a coincidence. You should leave. I'm afraid that the people from the Flying Sword sect have already reached the entrance of the ancient Black Wind Cave. What are you afraid of? At most, they would send an early nascent soul realm disciple to deal with me, and they wouldn't dare to do it openly. Those three aren't ordinary people, Chen Hao pointed out. I know. Be careful. They might be people from the demonic Tao and are very strong. After you enter, use your fastest speed to gather at the core palace. Don't be greedy for the treasures and mineral veins ahead. Chen Shui didn't say anything more. The fact that Chen Hao could come at this time made her feel slightly relieved. Although the other three fellows with chilly auras who didn't say a word concealed it very well, Chen Shui's keen perception was still able to capture an obscure, evil aura from the three of them. If it was Chen Shui alone, she really did not have the confidence. However, with the addition of Chen Hao, there was nothing to fear. Someone is coming. Chen Shui's voice had just sounded when Chen Hao also sensed a rapidly approaching aura. In the blink of an eye, it appeared in everyone's line of sight. My luck isn't bad. Looks like it's just right. The newcomer smiled slightly and calmly swept his gaze over everyone present. When it came to Chen Hao and Chen Shui, it paused for a moment and said. His aura was also restrained, but everyone could clearly feel that this seemingly elegant young man was very strong. What a strong aura! Chen Shui was slightly surprised and said telepathically, This person is very strong, and he's wearing a mask. Wearing a mask? Chen Hao was slightly stunned. With his keen perception and Chen Shui's keen perception, he could also feel that the newcomer was not as simple as he looked. The energy hidden in his body was extremely terrifying and was definitely stronger than that of Fan Fong, who was half a step away from the nascent soul realm. Moreover, he should be the same as the other three and was definitely not a righteous cultivator. However, Chen Hao couldn't see that the other party was wearing a mask. Faced with this situation, although Chen Hao knew that if the treasure-hunting sword spirit and Atoda sensed it, they would definitely be able to see something, but now he was on an adventure and the mysterious existence had already ruled over all the messy things in his mind. In these 2 days, the treasure-hunting sword spirit only reminded him when he sensed the treasures and mineral veins. Everything else depended on himself. That's right, Chen Shui said affirmatively. While Chen Hao and Chen Shui were communicating telepathically, everyone stood up. Among them, the cultivator who spoke when Chen Hao came over said, The 16 of us are here. Let's go in. Everyone will rely on their own luck. Don't worry, although we have many people in the Wise King Valley, we will never bully anyone, as long as you don't take anything you shouldn't. Do you think the Wind and Thunder sect is afraid of you? Young lady, after you enter, you are welcome to come to me, Zhao Chuang. A weak gigolo will not feel safe. The Wise King Valley is nothing in my eyes. This, Chen Shui and Chen Hao glanced at each other, and then they paid no attention to these arrogant and despotic sect disciples that thought they had the advantage in numbers. At the same time, they transformed into 2 flowing lights that chose the 2 black hole entrances above the lava vortex and charged over. Hiss! The last person to arrive sneered in his heart. However, at this time, he didn't do anything. Together with the other 3 people with similar auras, he silently merged into the black hole. Idiot! With your cultivation base and appearance, you're like a toad lusting after a swan's meat. She would like me, not you. Let's go. The cultivator from the Wise King Valley said disdainfully to the people from the Wind and Thunder sect. After speaking, the 5 of them also merged into the black hole. The Wind and Thunder sect disciple who was ignored by Chen Shui again had a vicious look in his eyes. He also flew into the corresponding black hole. This, rumble. The moment the 16 of them gathered, a mysterious and ancient aura spread out. At this moment, the lava whirlpool suddenly sped up and emitted 16 rays of bright red light. Then, Chen Hao and the others appeared in a strange underground cave. This was a huge, dark cave. It was unknown how high it was, and it was impossible to see the top. It was at least 10,000 feet wide. Instead of calling it an underground cave, it was more appropriate to call it another world. Dark clouds as black as ink filled the entire cave. One could reach out and touch them. In the cave, there were a few small palaces that emitted ancient auras scattered around. Huff! Huff! The moment Chun Hao appeared, a gust of wind blew through the cave. The dark clouds in front of him immediately scattered with the wind, like ink spreading in water. It was a black wind. No wonder it's called the ancient Black Wind Cave. It's really dark, Chun Hao thought to himself as he sensed the black wind that was as sharp as knives. If it were an ordinary person, their body would have been torn apart by such a violent wind. Every gust of black wind was filled with violent energy of heaven and earth. The roars of demonic beasts could be heard from afar. It was abnormally terrifying. There are a total of 16 directions in this level 4 cave dwelling. Although Qin Shui and I were next to each other when we entered, we might not meet in advance. She's very strong, especially her speed. The others are not a threat, except for that guy at the back. However, it should be fine if we avoid the battle. Chun Hao thought to himself. After the 16 of them entered this level 4 cave dwelling, they would appear in an underground cave. The 16 caves would converge towards a core. The entire cave dwelling was actually a huge circle with a radius of 40,000 miles. At the center of the cave dwelling was the treasure vault. Every 10,000 miles, the 16 of them advanced. The two caves would merge into one. In other words, after Chun Hao advanced for 10,000 li, he would enter the same cave with another person. After another 10,000 li, the other two would enter the same cave with them, and so on and so forth. Finally, all 16 of them would gather at the core palace. Although the routes were so, they would not necessarily meet. It would depend on their speed. If they converged, it was possible for two people to meet at the same speed. However, the probability was very small. Because everyone would advance with all their might, the faster one would pass first and naturally obtain more treasures. Chun Hao did not hesitate. His figure flashed as he faced the demonic beasts in front of him and advanced quickly. Low-grade spirit weapon. Low-grade spirit weapon. Black iron ore. Black iron ore. Chun Shui's speed was as fast as lightning. When she encountered powerful demonic beasts, she would avoid them if she could. If she could not avoid them, she would kill them in one strike. Her perception was even stronger than Chun Hao's. Wherever she passed, she could sense any spirit treasure or a vein. However, she did not stop. Although the low-grade spirit weapon and black sky were precious, she could only give them up. The treasures in the core palace were the most important. As expected of a level 4 cave abode. What a F***king waste. Forget it. As long as we get the treasures in the core palace, we'll be rich. The disciples of the wise King Valley and the Wind and Thunder sect were confident that they would win. Although the other 3 people in a group were strong, they were not as strong as them in terms of numbers and were not a concern. They who did not understand Chun Hao's strength did not put Chun Hao in their eyes. Although Qin Shui and the lone cultivator who appeared last were strong and they were not confident of defeating them in a one-on-one battle, they were not a concern in terms of numbers. Therefore, for the treasures in the core palace, the 16 people who entered almost all gave up on the small profits before them. Kiki, in another direction, after a figure appeared in the cave abode, the aura around him suddenly bloomed. Accompanied by a sinister laugh, a pure and terrifying demonic aura spread out in all directions, causing the surrounding dark clouds to rumble. Beautiful girl, a guy with boundless vitality, treasures in the core palace. TSK, TSK. I'm drooling. His figure flashed as he charged toward the core of the cave abode. He was as fast as lightning. It's shameful to waste. This is not my style. Well, I'm fast anyway. Treasure hunting, pick up valuable items, don't waste them. With his powerful soul, Chun Hao's sensing ability was on par with the treasure-hunting sword spirit. However, his ability to identify treasures was far from it. At this moment, as he flew quickly, he could sense the aura of spirit weapons and or veins coming from some of the palaces. It would be a pity if he gave up just like that. Although an inferior-grade spirit weapon was worthless to Chun Hao, it would still be worth a lot if he sold it for pills. Black iron or was just as precious. It was still very valuable to Chun Hao. Middle-grade spirit weapon. Chun Hao, who was scavenging while flying quickly, sensed an aura that was much stronger than the inferior-grade spirit weapons he had encountered before the treasure-hunting sword spirit reminded him. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 257. What a strong aura! Chun Hao continued to search as he flew. After traveling for 10,000 miles, he came to the first crossroad, which was the junction of another passage. Even though the treasure-hunting sword spirit did not warn him, Chun Hao sensed an aura that was beyond that of a low-grade spiritual artifact coming from the huge palace at the crossroad. I'm afraid that only a middle-tier spirit weapon could produce such a strong fluctuation. Chun Hao smiled. Middle-grade spiritual artifacts were very rare among the disciples of the Golden Core realm. Even a 7th-rank sect would find it difficult to obtain one. Firstly, it was very expensive, which made many people shrink back. Secondly, it was in short supply. Once it appeared in any auction, it would cause a commotion. This was especially true for the most used, treasured swords and sabers. Die! Hiss! Chun Hao suddenly increased his speed to the limit. The true core strength around him surged and surged. He slapped at the several powerful demonic beasts guarding the entrance of the huge palace from 100 feet away. These demonic beasts were obviously very powerful in the later stage of the Golden Core realm. If other disciples at the peak of the later stage of the Golden Core realm encountered them, they would have to expend a lot of effort. However, under Chun Hao's abnormal combat strength, there was no suspense at all. The battle ended in just 2 minutes. Open. Not wanting to waste any time, Chun Hao directly activated his energy and violently blasted at the entrance of the palace that was covered with restrictions, brutally destroying it. The door was broken open, and a long, narrow passage appeared in front of Chun Hao. It was only 10 feet wide, but thousands of feet long. Chun Hao saw the end of the passage at a glance. On a circular altar, there was a dazzling treasure robe. Middle-grade treasure robe. Ayo, ayo, ayo. Just as Chun Hao's eyes flashed with excitement and he was about to rush over, the narrow passage suddenly flashed with a dark light. What surprised Chun Hao was that in just a moment, the entire passage was filled with thousands of demonic beasts at the later stage of the Golden Core realm. They were densely packed together, filling the entire passage and roaring at him. Amazing. As expected, the more powerful a treasure is, the harder it is to obtain it. Even though these demonic beasts aren't strong, their numbers are too great. If I want to obtain the treasured clothes, then I must kill all these tigers that stand in my way. If the protective armor was only a low-grade spiritual artifact, Chun Hao would have given up after seeing such a scene. After all, it would take some time to kill all the demonic beasts. However, the aura of this treasure robe was obviously a middle-grade spiritual weapon. It was more precious and rare than a middle-grade spiritual weapon. Chun Hao needed it very much, so he naturally could not give it up. Boom, boom, ayo, ayo, ayo. Soon after, Chun Hao began to hunt violently. Just as Chun Hao was immersed in the dense horde of demonic beasts and began to slaughter them with all his might, a figure emerged from another tunnel and arrived at the intersection. This silhouette was one of the 3 in the group. Middle-grade spirit weapon? TSK. My luck is pretty good. Fortunately, my weakness in speed has been improved a lot. If I were a little later, I'm afraid it would have been snatched away. Well, it's actually this kid. This figure restrained his aura and was slightly surprised when he saw Chun Hao fighting with the demonic beasts. This gigolo's speed and combat strength are far beyond his realm. He is close to a super genius at the peak of the late stage of the Gold Core realm. I really can't tell. Unfortunately, he met me. It won't be too late for me to take action after he finishes killing the demonic beasts. Quietly concealing his aura, this guy slowly approached. Sneak attacks and assassinations were generally disdained by the righteous cultivators. However, not only did the demonic cultivators not care about this, but most of them were proficient in concealment, sneak attacks, and assassination, as long as they could kill their opponents. Therefore, Even if they encountered a disciple whose cultivation was much higher than theirs, they would often win. In addition to speed being his weakness, this guy's combat strength was extremely strong. Among the other two companions, he deserved to be the first. He was at the peak of the late stage of the Gold Core realm. If he encountered a half-step nascent soul realm master, or even an unprepared early-stage nascent soul realm master, he could succeed in a sneak attack. Therefore, although Chun Hao was showing amazing combat strength at this moment, he did not care at all as he hid in the dark. After a full hour, Chun Hao finally killed the last demonic beast. His figure flashed and rushed to the mid-grade treasure robe floating above the altar. Die! Hiss! However, the moment Chun Hao grabbed the treasure robe, a gloomy roar suddenly came from behind him. At the same time, the figure sent out a fierce sword, pointing directly at Chun Hao's back. Accompanied by gloomy laughter, this figure was full of confidence, and his aura was completely released. This was his strongest move that he had condensed for several minutes. Even if Chun Hao reacted at this moment, he would not be able to block this attack. He stared at Chun Hao cruelly, his heart full of pride. Not only did he get the treasure robe, but Chun Hao also seemed to have become his tonic. As a demonic cultivator, devouring the blood and chi of cultivators was undoubtedly one of the fastest ways to improve one's cultivation. However, what made him slightly surprised was that even though Chun Hao had clearly heard his shout, he did not seem to be surprised at all. The hand that was grabbing the treasure robe directly drew a beautiful arc. His entire body turned smoothly and agilely, and a bright sword light suddenly shot out. This figure saw Chun Hao's expression, but he was not surprised at all. Instead, there was a trace of evil sneer, as if he had already discovered him. Boom! A terrifying energy exploded, and the two figures retreated at the same time. Chun Hao was not in a hurry, and kept the treasure robe in the storage space. How is this possible? Brat, you actually discovered me? The guy who was repelled by Chun Hao in one move had a trace of surprise and viciousness in his eyes. He stared at Chun Hao and said coldly. The evil aura around him surged crazily. Your strength is not bad. You are barely qualified to fight with me. Chun Hao slowly raised the 5 elements sword in his hand and pointed the tip of the sword at the opponent. He said arrogantly, and an incomparably sharp sword intent raged out. Brat, you are only in the late stage of the golden elixir realm. How dare you be arrogant in front of me, the bloodthirsty dire wolf? You should have heard of the methods of the 3 bloodthirsty wolves, right? Leave the treasure robe and be my dog, and I will let you live. I have never heard of it, and no one will ever hear of it in the future, Chun Hao said disdainfully. Before he finished speaking, he stabbed out with his sword. In an instant, it was as if space had been torn apart. An incomparably sharp sword intent spread out and instantly enveloped the bloodthirsty dire wolf who was hundreds of feet away. You are courting death. Break from me. The bloodthirsty dire wolf roared and punched out. A long blood-red river whizzed out. The monstrous demonic aura instantly locked onto and shattered Chun Hao's sword intent. The bloodthirsty direwolf used 100% of his strength in this punch. He originally thought that Chun Hao would be shocked when he heard his name. Although he would not surrender, his combat strength would definitely be greatly reduced, which would make it easier for him to kill him. After all, the reputation of the 3 bloodthirsty wolves was rather resounding to Golden Core Realm sect disciples. However, Chun Hao was not afraid. Instead, he attacked coldly. This made him extremely angry. Boom! The palace shook violently. The terrifying demonic energy was like a flash flood. A blood-red wolf head vaguely appeared and fiercely collided with Chun Hao's sword light. Bang! 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 The ground cracked, and Chun Hao retreated 3 steps. However, the bloodthirsty direwolf's body only shook slightly and then violently attacked again. Amazing. This guy's strength is only a little weaker than Fan Fong's. He is only at the peak of the late Golden Core realm. It seems that the demonic cultivators are indeed stronger at the same level. This was the first time that Chun Hao had fought with a demonic cultivator. He did not dare to be careless. He repeatedly waved the five-element sword. Sword Light attacked and defended in an orderly manner. The battle intent around him soared crazily. He is only at the late Golden Core realm. He is able to block my full-strength attack. He should be proud of himself among the disciples of the sect. If he was at the peak of the late Golden Core realm, I am afraid that I would not be able to take him down. The bloodthirsty direwolf's eyes turned scarlet. When he was 500 feet away from Chun Hao, he suddenly opened his fists. A crescent-shaped scarlet arc of light suddenly condensed. Die. Let's see how you block it. Under the bloodthirsty direwolf's control, the scarlet arc of light, which was even more condensed, flashed with a hiss. It seemed to tear the void apart and violently slashed at Chun Hao. Child's play. Sensing the strength of his opponent's attack, Chun Hao's battle intent soared. Instead of being shocked, he was delighted. Especially in a place where there was no one watching, he had no scruples. Instead of retreating, he moved forward and stabbed out with his sword. Buzz. The five-element sword was originally shining with a resplendent seven-colored light. However, with a buzz, it turned into a pure, icy blue. At the same time, what shocked the bloodthirsty direwolf was that although Chun Hao had stabbed out with sword chi, what he had actually stimulated was a huge shadow that was almost solid. When the shadow appeared, the air in the palace seemed to freeze. Even the speed of the Scarlet Crescent arc suddenly slowed down. The inheritance of the divine beast Black Tortoise? Boom! Chi! Ayo! Just at the instant when the large wolf was shocked, the Black Tortoise shell forcefully blocked his crimson crescent moon. Chun Hao's wrist shook once again, and the Black Tortoise seal suddenly erupted with a tiger's roar that resounded through the heavens and the earth. Shortly after, an incomparably swift and fierce golden sword light tore through the air and pierced towards the large wolf's throat with a speed as fast as lightning. Before the large wolf's old strength had been used, and a new strength had yet to be formed. White Tiger Strike. Puff. The White Tiger seal, which was the fiercest attack, was integrated into the sword light. Like a laser, under the bloodthirsty direwolf's frightened eyes, it pierced through his throat. Even before his death, he did not expect that Chun Hao, who was only in the late Gold Core stage, would have the inheritance of two divine beasts. Even more so, he did not expect that Chun Hao could use such a strange method to display the ultimate attack of two divine beasts. Burn for me. His remaining soul consciousness allowed him to hear Chun Hao's cold shout. Immediately, his soul was enveloped by a scorching flame. Divine beast, vermilion bird. This was his last consciousness. He had been in the cultivation world for many years and had killed countless sect disciples. No matter what, he did not expect that he would die in the hands of a young man in the late Gold Core stage. Moreover, his soul would be destroyed. He did not expect that in a short time, he would see three divine beasts gathered in one body. This was something that seemed impossible to happen. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 258. Phew. Compared to the 7-star alignment, the inheritance power of the 5 divine beasts is only 10% weaker. However, it is more flexible and can exert the power of attributes. It is more suitable for fighting. Chun Hao grabbed the storage ring of the bloodthirsty wolf and put it away. At the same time, he took out the middle-grade armor that he had just obtained. The armor was dark yellow in color, and the surface was engraved with fine black runes. It was faintly flowing and emitting a faint black light, like the inky wind in the cave. It carried a sharp aura and contained a trace of Hutu's aura. However, what made Chun Hao slightly surprised was that although the aura was very strong, the runes at the edge seemed to be broken, and the formation inside could not be operated at all. Chun Hao forced a wisp of blood essence into it and engraved his soul mark. With a thought, the armor turned into a stream of light and put it on Chun Hao's body. The information of the armor naturally appeared in Chun Hao's mind. Doomsday Battle Armor. one of the combination spiritual equipment sets. No wonder it can't be used. It's the Doomsday Battle Armor. Master. At this moment, Ito Ta, who was controlled by the mysterious existence, suddenly regained his freedom and said in Chun Hao's mind, "You know? Of course I know. If I didn't see this armor, I would have forgotten. I obtained 4 pieces in the past, but I didn't get the Doomsday Battle Armor. This is a set of spiritual equipment. Without one, it is useless. It is not much stronger than a low-grade spiritual equipment. Only when it is a set, the combination formation can be operated and its true power can be exerted. Master, take out my storage ring and look through it. In the corner, under a pile of ores, there is a low-grade storage ring." Ito Ta said. Hearing Ito Ta's words, Chun Hao hurriedly found Ito Ta's storage ring in the 5 Elements ring. When Chun Hao obtained Ito Ta's storage ring, he did not check it carefully. Naturally, he was not interested in looking through the low-grade storage ring. A moment later, 4 pieces of equipment that were clearly part of the Armageddon armor set appeared before Chun Hao. After forcing out 4 streams of blood essence, the gauntlets, leggings, armor, and boots immediately transformed into streams of light that were worn on Chun Hao's body. The moment the 5 pieces of the set were assembled, streaks of earthy yellow-golden light rose from Chun Hao's body. Soon after, streaks of ink-like black smoke curled around his body, emitting an extremely powerful set aura. Doomsday Armor. It was a top-notch middle-grade spirit artifact armor, and its formation contained the Dark Wind Calamity technique. Dark Wind Calamity? Chun Hao was slightly taken aback. He was extremely familiar with this name, as it was mentioned in the Taoist scripture. It was a branch of the Grand Calamity technique that was ranked at the top of the 3,000 Grand Daos, and its might was extremely great and contained unfathomable profundities. The Great Calamity art is one of the supreme Tao arts of the heavenly Tao. It is composed of the 3 calamities and 9 disasters. The 3 calamities are Doomsday Calamity, Scorching Sun Fire, Dark Wind Calamity. The 9 disasters are Human Disaster, Earth Disaster, Demon God Disaster, Samadhi Disaster, Nature Disaster, Karma Disaster, Mind Disaster, Soul Disaster, and Tribulation Disaster. It contains the heavenly Tao and can only be mastered by comprehending the supreme profundity of the creation and destruction of heaven and earth. The Dark Wind Calamity attached to this set of middle-grade treasured armor can only exert 1/10,000,000th of its power, which is already good enough. However, it is very useful for you now. It can be used as one of your trump cards. At this moment, the voice of the mysterious existence sounded in Chun Hao's mind. Chun Hao smiled slightly and was not frightened by the mysterious existence's so-called 1/10,000,000th of its power. Biting off more than one could chew would only hurt one's confidence. Retreating and forming a net, one step at a time, was the most practical. Chun Hao could feel that once the defense of the Doomsday Armor was activated, he could basically ignore the attacks of late-stage Golden Core experts. Even Fan Fong, who is half a step away from the nascent soul realm, will be able to reduce the damage done to him by at least 30%. If he had worn this treasured armor to fight Fan Fong, Chun Hao would have at most suffered light injuries. This was under the premise that he did not activate the Dark Wind Calamity contained in the treasured armor. With a thought, the Doomsday Armor separated from his body. Chun Hao quickly took off his outer clothes and put them on. After adjusting the armor to its most fitting state, he put on his outer clothes. Ding ding. Just as Chun Hao was about to leave, 2 crisp sounds rang out from the circular altar where the treasured armor was placed. 2 pitch-black key-shaped tokens appeared on the altar. Are these the keys to the core palace? Chun Hao was slightly surprised. Strange. It usually appears at the last intersection, but it actually appeared so early. It seems that the higher one's strength is, the corresponding adjustments will be made. Master put away. If you can get the keys of the other 13 people, only you and Master Chun Shui can open the core palace. Chun Hao replied and put away the 2 keys. He did not dare to waste any time and continued forward. Chun Shui was very strong. The obscure aura on her body made even Chun Hao unable to tell what level her true strength had reached. However, the power displayed by the bloodthirsty direwolf forced Chun Hao to re-evaluate the battle strength of the demon Dao. Especially the lone traveler who appeared at the last moment. Chun Hao was sure that guy was definitely stronger than Fan Fong. If Chun Shui encountered him, Chun Shui was still his elder sister after all. Kikik, while Chun Hao was killing the bloodthirsty direwolf, at another intersection thousands of miles away, the bodies of the three bloodthirsty direwolves turned into ghastly white bones amidst the sinister laughter of the handsome masked man. A demon Dao itinerant cultivator dares to be arrogant in front of me, Fujikawa. You really don't know what's good for you. After devouring these 15 people, except for that beautiful girl, my blood soul art will definitely advance to the peak of the 4th level. My battle strength will be comparable to the peak of the early stage nascent soul realm. Surviving the heavenly punishment will not be a problem. Coming to the cultivation world is indeed much faster than coming to the demon realm. Subduing that beautiful girl and bringing her back to the demon realm to be my concubine is not bad. Kikik, there's no need to waste any more time. I'll just wait at the core area and devour them one by one. It'll save me a lot of effort. Fujikawa, a half-step nascent soul realm, was a demon Dao sect disciple. If Itoda knew that the other party cultivated the blood soul art, he would definitely be shocked and envious. The blood soul art was an earth-level top-tier technique. It was one of the basic techniques of the demon Dao royal family's supreme technique, the great blood soul art. Once his cultivation level increased, once he obtained the cultivation method of the great blood soul art, he would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Hiss! As soon as Fujikawa finished speaking, he turned into a bloody light and disappeared as fast as lightning. The closer they got to the core palace, the stronger the monsters were, and the number of monsters increased. Even if Chun Hao wanted to avoid them completely, it was impossible. Moreover, once the battle started, it would be continuous. They could only kill all the way and move forward. This situation directly led to the need to rest and recover after encountering the palace, even if they did not sense the aura of spiritual weapons and mineral veins. Chun Hao, who had abnormal physical strength and vigorous vital essence, was like this. The situation of the others was not much better. Even Chun Shui and the powerful Fujikawa were no exception. The level 4 cave dwellings seemed to adjust the combat power and number of monsters according to the individual's cultivation level, making it impossible for them to move faster. When the 20,000 miles became a gathering of 4 people, Chun Hao saw a Wind and Thunder Sect disciple and a Wisdom King Valley disciple. When the 2 of them saw Chun Hao alone, they were slightly surprised. However, when they saw the speed at which Chun Hao hunted the demonic beasts, they, who originally harbored malicious intentions, did not dare to act rashly. Chun Hao ignored them and did not listen to Itoda's suggestion. If others did not offend him, he would not offend them. This was the principle he adhered to. He really could not blindly kill. However, if he encountered treasures and wanted to compete with him, then he would be sorry. In the beginning, the 2 of them were very wise. Moreover, the 2 of them were not in the same group. In the tripartite confrontation, it was obvious that Chun Hao was stronger. They could only watch Chun Hao take the lead and take the treasures. It was fine once or twice, but when they encountered a mid-grade spiritual weapon for the 4th time, the 2 of them were jealous. After communicating with each other, they decided to cooperate and kill Chun Hao, then divide the treasures on Chun Hao equally. In the end, they lost their lives for nothing. Chun Hao easily obtained 4 keys. At the 30,000 miles entrance, Chun Hao also did not encounter anyone. He did not know whether his speed was fast or the others were slow. Up until now, a full 4 days had passed, and there were only 10,000 miles left. Chun Hao didn't know, and he didn't expect it at all. Even Ito Ta didn't expect that Chun Hao, who was wearing the Doomsday armor, would encounter so many demon beasts that his combat power far exceeded that of others. Originally, with his strength, there would be no problem for him to arrive at the core palace in advance. However, because of the aura of the doomsday armor, his speed was slower than some disciples who were much weaker than him. It's been half a day. Why is there still no one? A graceful blue figure, standing in front of the entrance of a huge circular palace, thought in her heart. This palace was 3,000 feet in diameter and 5,000 feet in height. It was built with huge pieces of black crystal stones, exuding an ancient and vast aura. A layer of ink-like, flowing light circulated around the palace. The gate of the palace was a rare, circular shape. It was about 100 feet in diameter. It was completely composed of black iron concentrate. 16 grooves were evenly distributed on the gate, exuding a faint, mysterious aura. Chun Shui had been here for an entire day and only had one key in her hand. From beginning to end, perhaps because she was too fast, she did not encounter any cultivators. After arriving here, she waited for a full half a day, but still no one came. This made her feel very strange. Not to mention others. With Chun Hao's strength, how could he be so much slower than her? Could there be an accident? Chun Shui was a little worried. If he encountered other people, Chun Hao should not have any problems. However, if he encountered a masked demonic cultivator, it might be a little dangerous. Just as Chun Shui felt faintly uneasy and once again entered the narrow passage at the entrance of the core area, intending to turn back to take a look, a gloomy voice suddenly came from the other end of the narrow passage. Little beauty, can't wait? There are only 4 left. What made Chun Shui frown was that the masked, seemingly elegant young man, at this moment, threw a shriveled cultivator on the ground and looked at her with a lustful expression. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 259. Don't be afraid. A beautiful woman like you. As long as you serve me well, how can I, Fujikawa, bear to kill you? He. Someone's coming. Little beauty, go back inside and wait. Don't ruin my business. When I'm done killing, this core palace will be ours. I'll take good care of you. He. Boom. Along with Fujikawa's arrogant laughter, the disciple who had turned into a dried corpse in front of him was suddenly wrapped in a blue flame and turned into ashes in an instant. Hiss! At the same time, Fujikawa's aura suddenly disappeared, and his entire person hid in a dark corner. Anyone who passed by here would have to suffer a terrifying blow from him. Fujikawa. He's actually Fujikawa? Chun Shui was shocked when she heard the other party's name. Fujikawa was the target of the Immortal Alliance's hunting mission since half a year ago. In just half a year, the bounty had risen again and again, from 100,000 low-grade primordial crystal stones to 3 million. His value was higher than some nascent Soul Realm devils. Because his combat strength was far from what an ordinary early nascent Soul Realm expert could compare to, and his concealment and escape skills were extremely high, and he was extremely cunning. Some nascent Soul Realm experts of his sex had fallen in his hands. Hiss! Chun Shui immediately turned into a cool breeze, completely disappearing into the air. There are still 4 people, which means that he has already killed 10. Fortunately, it's not Chun Hao. Chun Shui's strong perception ability. In fact, before Fujikawa spoke, she had already sensed Chun Hao's unique aura. However, she did not immediately fly into a rage because she had no confidence in defeating Fujikawa. Humph! Little beauty, do you want to die? Get in obediently. Don't think that you can hide from my perception just because you've comprehended the spatial attribute. Otherwise, I'll kill you too. Fujikawa's expression did not change. He looked at the void as if he saw Chun Shui and said sinisterly, "Condense." As he spoke, he waved his hand and released a pure and majestic demonic aura that enveloped Chun Shui. Chun Shui was shocked. One had to know that at this moment, she was integrated into all things in the world. With such a concealment skill, she should not be sensed. Therefore, she did not take his words to heart, thinking that he was just bluffing. However, the attack that Fujikawa had clearly discovered her trajectory. How is this possible? Chun Shui did not know that Fujikawa, who cultivated the blood soul art, was not sensing Chun Shui's aura, but her blood soul. Merging with all things in the world, Chun Shui could easily conceal her aura in front of most cultivators of the same level, or even cultivators 1 or 2 levels higher. However, as long as she did not disintegrate, her blood soul would exist, and she would not be able to hide. Break! Chun Shui didn't dare hesitate any longer. With a shout, she swung her sword at the incoming terrifying energy. At the same time, she urged the laws of space, wanting to rush out and meet up with Chun Hao, who was approaching from 100 kilometers away. You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Get out of here. Fujikawa's figure flashed, and he no longer hid. He suddenly rushed to the middle of the long and narrow passage. The violent demon energy instantly condensed into blood-red sword light and blasted out in all directions. The scene before Chun Shui's eyes instantly turned blood-red as a group of demons danced about chaotically. This sort of scene was like falling into a mountain of corpses and an ocean of blood in the 9th level of hell, and it caused Chun Shui's mind to be slightly affected. If it wasn't for her soul and mental state that far exceeded an ordinary person, she would probably have directly lost herself within it. Thunderclap, 9th heaven! Chun Shui shouted and cut off the opponent's mental attack. Her beautiful eyes flashed with lightning as bright as the stars. She didn't retreat or give way. The sword in her hand flashed with lightning arcs, and with a hum, she violently stabbed out. At the same time, she released 2 types of laws of heaven, space and lightning. Crack! In an instant, huge thunderbolts shot out from the sword. Hundreds of lightning arcs that contained terrifying energy struck the seemingly real mountain of corpses and ocean of blood. She's actually so strong. Chun Shui's move destroyed Fujikawa's bloodthirsty sword finger that contained a mental attack, which made Fujikawa slightly surprised. He had long sensed that this beautiful girl's obscure aura might not be simple, but in the end, he still underestimated her a little. However, this made Fujikawa even more excited. Very good, very good. With such combat strength, you can rise to the position of my woman. If I don't let you see my true strength, it seems that I won't be able to tame you. Hee. You're here? Then let's go together. Just as Fujikawa was speaking, a stream of light flew over as fast as lightning. Although Fujikawa was slightly surprised by the speed, when he saw that Chun Hao was only in the late gold core stage, Fujikawa became even more excited. Chun Hao's vitality was definitely higher than the sum of the 2 or 3 guys just now. And now, in order to tame Chun Shui, he had to pay a little price and use his true ultimate move. In this way, it was naturally best to kill them together. Boom! Ow, ow! Demon Dao Vital Essence, with the voice of Fujikawa, suddenly erupted and burned fiercely. Around his body, countless burning skulls condensed in an instant. The eye sockets of each skull spewed out blood-red light. Their mouths were wide open, their fangs bared, and they let out a terrifying howl that could confuse one's mind. As for Fujikawa, he was like a demon god that had walked out of Azura hell. The monstrous, evil aura pressed down from the sky and earth. 1,000 feet radius was shrouded in a terrifying demonic aura. With a wave of his hand, he covered Chun Hao, who was rushing over quickly, and Chun Shui, who was in another direction. Domain. The moment she sensed this aura, even Chun Shui's face suddenly changed dramatically. Chun Hao, retreat. Chun Shui cried out in horror. In any case, she never thought that Fujikawa, who was only a half-step nascent soul realm, could condense a domain space. Domain space, 1 in 10,000. Under normal circumstances, only the peak of the late nascent soul realm could stimulate the power of a domain space, and it was only a possibility. 1 in 1,000 peak of the late nascent soul realm would probably appear. The peak of the late nascent soul realm, 1 in 100 people would appear. As the cultivation realm increased, the probability of it appearing would gradually increase. All of these people were super geniuses. However, in the Golden Core realm, even if it was a half-step nascent soul realm, it was basically impossible to appear. Chen Shui was incomparably shocked in her heart. She, who was relatively close, simply had no time to dodge. The moment she shouted for Chun how to retreat, she clearly felt that not only was her mind greatly affected, but the true qi in her body was also greatly restricted under the power of this powerful domain. She was barely able to display 70% of her cultivation. This was the first time she had encountered such a dangerous situation. What made her even more frightened was that Chun Hao had no intention of listening at all. Moreover, it seemed that it was too late even if he listened. He condensed for me. Hiss. After the domain space with a radius of 10,000 feet enveloped Chun Hao and Chen Shui, Fujikawa laughed arrogantly. He opened his hands and slowly compressed them inwards, as if he was holding a 10,000 feet domain space with both hands. In an instant, it shrank rapidly. F*CK. What kind of power is this? When he was 100 miles away, Chen Hao had already sensed the aura of the battle between Chen Shui and Fujikawa. Chen Hao only knew that the masked guy was very strong, and Chen Shui should not be his opponent. Therefore, he used all his strength and rushed all the way. With the powerful defense of the Doomsday armor, he did not even care about the attacking monsters, fearing that Chen Shui would be in danger. When he was hundreds of feet away, he did not care about anything and violently attacked with his sword. Before he could figure out what was going on, he fell into Fujikawa's domain space. Domain space. Itota's voice appeared in Chun Hao's mind. Domain space? What is that? When Chun Hao stepped into the world of cultivation, he improved by leaps and bounds. Coupled with the fact that he did not pay much attention to the cultivation methods of the world of cultivation, his basic knowledge was far from enough and could not be compared to Chen Shui. Therefore, he did not know the concept of domain space at all. It's a kind of magical ability with the nature of potential. The more powerful it is, the easier it is to activate. It also has something to do with the bloodline inheritance. This guy must have the royal bloodline of a demon race. Under his domain, he is the absolute master. Anyone who is trapped in it will not be able to use 40% of their combat strength. I'm afraid you can only use 50% of your true essence, and your mind will be affected. But his strength can be increased by 2 times. If you want to defeat him, you can shut up. The voice of the mysterious existence suddenly sounded, but Itota's voice was cut off. The speed of the communication of consciousness was only a spark of lightning. Chun Hao did not have the slightest objection to the mysterious existence interrupting Itota, because he knew that if he wanted to become a true powerhouse, he could only rely on himself. This was the training he had to go through. Chen Hao felt that he was uncontrollably gathered together with Chen Shui, and stopped when they were 10 feet apart. The entire domain space also became only 100 feet in size. But at this moment, the suppression of Chen Hao and Chen Shui was even stronger. Just as Itota said, Chen Hao clearly felt that his true essence seemed to have solidified and became extremely heavy. Moreover, his mind was also affected to a certain extent. It seems that the heavens are really helping me. My domain space has been compressed to such an extent, but the two of you can still maintain your calm mind. It's really rare. This kind of soul force is enough to match the total of those trash just now. Little beauty, how is it? Have you seen my strength? If you give up resistance now and surrender, it's not too late. I, Fujikawa, have the royal bloodline of the devil race. Not to mention you, even an early nascent soul stage cultivator, or even a middle nascent soul stage cultivator, can only be killed by me. To be able to become my Fujikawa's woman is definitely a supreme honor. Don't think that I'm just a devil cultivator. I'm a disciple of a powerful sect in the devil realm. I just came to your cultivation world to play. I'll give you 3 breaths of time to consider. Either give up resistance and let me control you, or die. I'll devour this kid first. What majestic blood chi. Dream on. Chen Hao, I'll break his domain and you run away immediately. Run away? A small domain is not difficult for me. You watch me. Don't risk your life until the last moment. Chunhao stared coldly at Qin Shui, who seemed to be going all out, and directly burst out curses. So you two have an affair? Hearing the words of the two people sacrificing themselves, Fujikawa's voice suddenly became colder. Kid, die for me. There's no way to speed up the update during this period, so I can only save the manuscript. On the 11th, the whole family has to go to Chengdu to visit relatives. On the 12th of October, we have to go to Nanjing for a few days to attend the annual meeting of the publishing house. I really have no choice but to try my best to maintain the 2 chapters every day. The outbreak will only start after the middle of next month. I hope everyone understands. Thank you. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 260. Hiss. Blood-red tentacles strangely appeared in the domain space. They were like fast-growing vines that wrapped around Chun Hao from all directions. F***CK off. Break for me. Boom. Chun Hao was already prepared. A raging black flame instantly erupted from his body, raising the power of the Doomsday armor to the limit. He took a step forward and slashed out with the 5-element sword. The resplendent, 7-colored sword gleam carried a terrifying sword essence. Although Chun Hao could only use 50% of his true origin, the power, speed, and sharpness displayed at this moment were still shocking, causing the entire domain space to tremble violently. The vine-like, blood-red tentacles were cut off with a crackling sound and collapsed upon contact. However, what made Chun Hao slightly shocked was that in such a short period of contact, he actually felt that his energy, blood, essence, and spirit seemed to have been devoured by the blood-red vines. This is really surprising. The late-stage Golden Elixir realm actually has such strength. Middle-grade combination treasure armor, middle-grade combination treasure sword, powerful soul force, majestic blood chi. Hee. It's a pity that I didn't cultivate the great possession technique. Otherwise, it wouldn't be bad to use it as my main body. However, under my domain, how can you block my blood soul arts? Blood soul technique? Qin Shui and Chun Hao were shocked at the same time. This time, Chun Hao finally did not need anyone to guide him, and he already knew. The blood soul technique. Not only did he see it in the summary of the Eastern Continent, but it was also recorded in the Essentials of Taoism. It was a branch of the Great Blood Soul technique and was also the basic cultivation technique for cultivating the Great Blood Soul technique. Wang Chun Shui, who was originally cursed by Chun Hao and still had hope, didn't hesitate at this moment. She suddenly bit open the tip of her tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood essence onto the spirit sword in her hand. A violent rumble sounded out, and an azure ball of light started to condense on the body of the sword at a shocking speed. Chun Shui clearly felt that the energy, essence, and spirit in her body were being crazily extracted at this moment. Chaotic Lightning Sword. It was the strongest attack that Chun Shui had cultivated after she comprehended the thunder attribute's true essence. Up until now, she had only cultivated to the 4th stage of the thunderclap, 9th heaven. But now, under the pressure of Fujikawa, she had no choice but to forcefully use the 5th stage that completely exceeded her limit. Heavenly thunder breaking the sky. Crack, crack. Bitch, do you really want to die? Fujikawa didn't expect Qin Shui to unleash such a powerful force. He originally thought that Chun Shui wouldn't be able to cause any ripples in his domain, but at this moment, the ball of light that Qin Shui condensed on the sword made him feel a trace of danger. At the very least, his domain power alone was no longer enough to completely suppress it. Furthermore, the blue ball of light's energy was still gathering at a crazy rate. It had not completely exploded yet, but it had already shattered the countless vines he had sent out. He wasn't worried that Qin Shui and Chun Hao would be able to escape, but if he wanted to control Qin Shui, he would have to start devouring and destroying her. It would be a waste to devour such a peerless beauty just like that. but it seemed that this was the only way now. Just as Fujikawa was determined to start devouring Chun Shui, who didn't know what was good for her, something that made him a little dumbfounded happened. At this moment, Chun Hao actually swung his sword and cut off a countless number of blood-red tentacles. He arrived in front of Chun Shui in a natural and smooth manner. A palm slammed onto Chun Shui's head. Immediately, he hugged the unconscious Chun Shui and swiftly retreated. Boom! After losing Chun Shui's control, the ball of light that was filled with endless thunder and lightning exploded, causing the domain space to shake violently. Countless blood-red tentacles turned into dust. However, it didn't break the domain space. Obviously, the power that Chun Shui had gathered was far from enough. Similarly, without Chun Shui's control, it couldn't unleash its true power. Hee, kid, a wise man submits to circumstances. Since you've helped me so much, then I'll let you die quickly. Don't worry, I won't let you suffer any pain. Fujikawa's blood-red eyes had a hint of excitement as he said with a sinister smile. No matter what, he would never have thought that Chun Hao, who seemed to have an affair with Chun Shui just now, would actually betray him under the threat of death and help him stop Chun Shui's desperate attack. This was undoubtedly a great help to him. At least, he would be able to obtain the stunning beauty who had fainted. He naturally thought that Chun Hao did this in order to let him go. However, to him, knowing how to repay a debt of gratitude was nothing but **t. At most, he would let Chun Hao die quickly. Chun Hao was slightly stunned. Wasn't this too much of a narcissist? Can't you spare my life? Immediately, Chun Hao stared at Fujikawa, who was standing proudly, and said, No, you can only blame your vitality and soul for being too tempting. If you were like those few pieces of trash, I might have really spared your life. Don't worry, I'll let you die happily as long as you don't resist. All right, Chun Hao said as if he was in despair. After saying that, he slowly closed his eyes as if he had really given up resisting. Very good. Fujikawa looked at Chun Hao approvingly and said, Hiss. Blood-red tentacles once again wrapped around Chun Hao. However, it was at this moment that Chun Hao's closed eyes opened once again. There was no dazzling light in them, only simple, unadorned, as kind as water, unmoved by favor or disgrace. Break for me, rumble. When the blood-red tentacles were about to reach Chun Hao's eyes, the sword in Chun Hao's hand did not release any true yuan. There was only a buzzing vibration. There was no sword light. There was only an incomparably sharp slash. At this moment, Chun Hao looked relaxed. In fact, his mind was restrained to the extreme. Every trace of vitality seemed to be wrapped in his body, circulating endlessly. However, it was limited to the sword and his body. There was not a trace of it leaking out. At the same time, Chun Hao's powerful soul force was also limited to his body and sword. At this moment, his vitality, energy, and soul were like a sealed container. Only his body was strong. This was the only way Chun Hao could resist the blood-soul tactics. Chun Hao was not like Chun Shui, who only knew the horror of the blood-soul tactics. He was clear about the cultivation method and the mystery of the blood-soul tactics. Chun Hao also had the supernatural power that could resist the blood-soul tactics. It was just that he was pressed for time and did not have the time to cultivate it. Otherwise, Chun Hao would not use the most primitive but easiest way to deal with Fujikawa's devouring. However, Chun Hao believed that even Itoda, who was at the peak of the late nascent soul stage and had devoured countless souls, was not as good as him in terms of soul force, let alone Fujikawa, who was only half a step away from the nascent soul stage. With Chun Hao's current soul force and the true yuan of the golden core stage, his control was far beyond that of an ordinary late golden core stage cultivator. As long as he restrained enough and did not leak any of his power, the other party would not be able to devour him. This was indeed the case. How is this possible? The sudden change made Fujikawa, who thought that Chun Hao had accepted his fate, unable to react. What surprised him even more was that when Chun Hao cut off his devouring tentacles, he could not devour a trace of qi, blood, and energy. Eh. While Fujikawa was surprised and angry, Chunhao was also slightly surprised. His original intention was to stop the other party from devouring his chi, blood, and energy. However, he did not expect that after completely containing his essence, chi, and spirit, and purely strengthening himself and the treasured sword, he was surprised to find that the suppression he suffered in the domain space had completely disappeared. The true Yuan in his Dantian could not feel any suppression. The domain space is a space that contains soul force and mental force alone. Although I am now in the space, my own aura is completely cut off from the domain space, forming a world of its own. It must be so. Chunhao's mind raced, and he instantly understood what was going on. Kid, you're courting death. So what if you know how to resist my blood soul art? After a brief shock, Fujikawa shouted sternly, die. Chunhao was able to resist the devouring of his blood soul art in such a way, which indeed shocked him, but it was only shock. In the domain space, his strength could be doubled. So what if Chunhao was a little late golden core stage cultivator? One blow to kill. As long as Chunhao was seriously injured or killed, it would be faster for him to directly approach and devour. With the word die, Fujikawa threw a punch at Chunhao. Boom, boom, boom. Countless fist shadows spread out and bombarded Chunhao from all directions in the domain space. Looking at the dense fist shadows that were filled with terrifying energy, Chunhao was not afraid at all. With one hand holding Chun Shui, who was warm and fragrant, in the other hand holding the sword, he drew a circle in front of him that seemed to be slow but was actually fast. This brand new method of using energy to strengthen one's own furnace made Chunhao feel an unprecedented strength that came from his own body. He was not in a hurry to use his ultimate move. Instead, he treated Fujikawa as his training target. Ding, 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 boom, boom, boom. The five-element sword actually cut off the terrifying fist shadows that were close to Chunhao. Accompanied by the sound of metal clashing and a terrifying explosion, Chunhao's figure was as tall as a mountain and as straight as a sword. The five-element sword, which was like a full moon, protected him and Chun Shui, so that not even a drop of water could leak out. The raging explosive energy was unable to enter at all. Under the urging of Chunhao's mind, Chun Shui slowly woke up. In an instant, she was clear about her own situation. She had forcefully activated the 5th level of the chaotic lightning sword, sky-piercing thunder. Originally, she would have to bear a huge backlash. Even if she could break through Fujikawa's domain, she would be seriously injured. Whether she could escape or not was still uncertain. But she could only do that. Unless it was really an irreversible situation, she would not make any calls for help. In fact, she was risking her life, but definitely not risking her life like Chunhao wanted. It was just that she did not expect Chunhao to actually stop her. Are your injuries serious? If not, restrain your aura. Don't let your strength and mind leak out. Only strengthen yourself. You will be pleasantly surprised. Accompanied by the terrifying explosion, Chunhao's voice drilled into Chun Shui's ears. Faced with Fujikawa's increasingly powerful attacks, Chunhao hugged Chun Shui and could not really unleash his full strength. If Chun Shui could defend herself, it would undoubtedly allow him to fight to his heart's content. Because at this moment, Fujikawa was far more powerful than Chunhao. His strength was more than twice that of Fanfong. Even if Chunhao used his ultimate move, he might not be able to kill him in one blow. There might even be a loophole, and he would not be able to take care of the unconscious Chun Shui. If that was really the case, Chun Shui, who did not have any protection, would probably be directly shattered into pieces by the terrifying energy. If you like this work, you're welcome to Conceited. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 261. Let me try first. Seeing that Chunhao was still transmitting his voice to her while dealing with Fujikawa's terrifying attack, Chun Shui did not dare to think too much and transmitted her voice to him. She immediately did, as Chunhao said. However, She still let Chun Hao hold her and did not move, as if she was still unconscious. How can this kid's strength be so terrifying? Even among the super geniuses of the Rank 8 and Rank 9 sects, there are very few who have such combat strength. Could it be that he used some secret technique? The more Fujikawa fought, the more shocked he was. He had been in the cultivation world for almost a year, especially in the past 6 months. Due to the continuous increase of the bounty, the disciples of the sects who were hunting him were getting stronger and stronger. He had even met a few super geniuses of the Rank 8 sects. However, in his domain space, no one could be like Chun Hao. At this moment, something happened that made Fujikawa frown even more. Chun Shui, who was unconscious, suddenly disappeared from Chun Hao's arms strangely, as if she had torn the void apart. Oh no! Fujikawa sensed Chun Shui's qi and blood that had integrated into the space law and felt slightly uneasy. It was not that he was afraid of Chun Shui, but that Chun Hao was holding Chun Shui and his combat strength was affected to a certain extent. However, Chun Shui woke up and there was no leakage of energy. This meant that Chun Shui also had the ability to resist his blood soul tactics. Chun Hao alone had already made him unable to fight for a long time. What if Chun Shui joined in? He was afraid that the domain space would be destroyed by the two of them. Once the domain space was destroyed, not only would Fujikawa be severely injured, but Chun Hao and Chun Shui would also be released and unleash their true combat strength. Then, it would be impossible for him to fight against them. Thunderclap, Ninth Heaven. Bang! It was the same sword move, and it was under the situation where Chun Shui had consumed nearly half of her strength. However, at this moment, using the method that Chun Hao said, she completely used her body as a cauldron and did not allow any energy to leak out. However, she displayed energy that was not suppressed by the domain space. This surprised Chun Shui. Buzz! The domain space shook violently. Chun Hao was not surprised to see that Chun Shui was able to comprehend his fighting style in a moment. In fact, Chun Hao was also clear that other than Chun Shui, the others would not be able to do it even if they were given a few months to cultivate, let alone such a short time. This was because it required an extremely powerful soul force and control. As for Chun Shui, in terms of soul power, she was definitely not much weaker than him. This could be seen when facing Fujikawa's mental attack. You focus on bombarding the domain's spatial barrier. I'll deal with him. Chun Hao said. Yes. Good. You two puny golden core realm cultivators can actually force me, Fujikawa, to such an extent. It's enough for you to be proud. It's all because of you, bitch. If I wasn't greedy for your beauty, I would have sucked you dry long ago and wouldn't be in such a sorry state. I will let you know the true power of my domain space. Die, all of you. Fujikawa did not dare to hesitate at this moment. He knew that once he did so, whether it was Chun Hao or Chun Shui, he would not be able to devour them at all. Not only would he die without leaving any residue, but he would also be seriously injured. However, if he did not do so, he would be the one to die after the two of them broke through the domain space. Now, the only thing he could do was to risk his life. He would lose 800 of his own men and 1,000 of his enemies. Anyway, there was no one else in this level 4 cave abode. Even if he was seriously injured, as long as he entered the cave abode's core palace to cultivate in seclusion, he would be able to recover. Be careful! Chun Hao and Chun Shui exclaimed at the same time. In the instant that Fujikawa raised his head to the sky and let out a long howl, he actually gave up on attacking Chun Hao. The energy around him was unrestrained and completely integrated into the domain space. In an instant, the entire domain space started to shrink once again. This sudden change was so sudden that even Chun Hao and Chun Shui could not adapt to its rhythm. Once again, they felt that the vital essence in their bodies was slightly suppressed. Whoosh! Feeling the great danger, Chun Hao did not dare to continue fighting. His figure was as fast as lightning as he grabbed Chun Shui with one hand. At the same time, The vital essence in his body was crazily injected into the doomsday armor. A pitch-black light bloomed like a black hurricane, protecting him and Chun Shui within it. Dark wind disaster, break for me, domain, self-destruct, die. Rumble. An earth-shattering explosion suddenly sounded. The domain space, which had been compressed to only a few hundred feet in radius, directly exploded. The terrifying energy instantly destroyed the long and narrow passage. The mountains collapsed and the earth cracked, and the cave's ceiling pressed down. Whoosh! Whoosh! Two streams of light shot toward the core palace at a speed that tore through the void. Wherever they passed, the caves collapsed and were filled. The first stream of light to rush into the core palace area was Fujikawa. A huge black gold shield had appeared in his hand at some point in time. The shield was covered with blood-red runes and emitted a blood-red light. It contained an extremely powerful demonic power that protected his body. But even so, Fujikawa was bleeding from his 7 orifices. He fell heavily from a void onto the solid ground. It was not until he hit the huge palace that he rebounded 1,000 feet away and stopped. He lay motionless on the ground. Obviously, the heavy injuries he suffered were completely beyond his expectations. The other stream of light that was as black as ink was Chun Hao and Chun Shui. The two of them had also lost control. Like Fujikawa, they hugged each other and rolled and hit the palace. They fell to the ground and were also motionless. How is this possible? The self-destruction of my domain did not destroy them. Fujikawa, who had been relieved, was extremely shocked when he saw Chun Hao and Chun Shui tumbling and falling from above him. He really could not imagine how the two of them could withstand the power of the self-destruction of the domain. Not to mention them, even a mid-nascent soul realm expert would probably be blown to pieces. Recover, recover. I have to recover as quickly as possible and kill them. Otherwise, I will be the one who dies. I have the royal bloodline of the Devil Clan. My recovery speed will definitely be much faster than theirs. No, there's no need to kill them. Since they have not been turned into powder, I can completely devour them while they're seriously injured. Heaven is helping me. Although Fujikawa could not summon any strength at this moment, his mind was still sensing. He could clearly sense that Chun Hao and Chun Shui's aura were weaker than his, and their injuries were more serious. It was impossible to recover in a short period of time. This made him forget the intense pain in his body. He was abnormally excited. However, just as he was about to close his eyes and start healing, his expression suddenly became sluggish. How is this possible? Fujikawa felt boundless fear. After Chun Shui and Chun Hao rolled on the ground, they were separated by several feet. Both of them were bleeding from their 7 orifices, especially Chun Shui. If it were not for the support of her strong mind, she would have long fallen into a coma with such a huge injury. Quick, heal! Chun Shui was very clear that what they needed to fight for now was time. Whoever recovered first would be able to survive. Therefore, when she saw Chun Hao looking at her, she hurriedly said. However, before she could say the word injury, what surprised her was that Chun Hao actually propped himself up. A large number of healing pills flew into his mouth as he walked step by step towards Fujikawa, who was 1,000 feet away. The distance of 1,000 feet could originally be covered in the blink of an eye. But now, Chun Hao was swaying. His speed was not even comparable to a 3-year-old child's. But it was just like this that made Fujikawa's heart break. Don't come over. If you dare to kill me, you will not be able to escape the pursuit of the Devil Emperor's bloodline and the Blood Demon sect. Your sect, your family, every single one of them will die. Fujikawa felt the true threat of death. His expression was ferocious as he unleashed the last of his strength and threatened Chun Hao. Those who said that to me are all dead. You will not be an exception. Chun Hao's originally swaying figure became more and more stable. His abnormal recovery ability surprised Chun Shui, and Fujikawa, on the other hand, was in despair. Die! Fujikawa still wanted to say something, but Chun Hao did not give him another chance. A cold blade light appeared strangely. At the same time, Chun Hao's already weak aura completely disappeared. A moment later, amidst Fujikawa's screams, flesh and blood flew everywhere. Except for the masked head, he was brutally dismembered by Chun Hao. Until there was no trace of life, Chun Hao fell to the ground with a plop and let out a long sigh. 11 keys. The others all died in this guy's hands. 15 minutes later, Chun Hao stood up again and put away Fujikawa's storage ring. He picked up the 11 keys that had fallen beside his body. Mask. His mask is a treasure. Don't destroy his head. You can receive a reward. Xia Shui, who had only recovered a little strength and was unable to stand up, said to Chun Hao. Okay. Chun Hao responded and reached out his hand to wipe Fujikawa's face. Immediately, a thin mask that looked like human skin appeared in his hand. He forced out a wisp of blood essence and merged his mind into it. Immediately, he felt a mysterious aura. It is indeed a good treasure. Hiss. In an instant, the mask was on Chun Hao's face. Hee. Chun Hao let out a sinister sneer at Chun Shui. Disgusting. Hurry up and change it. Chun Shui was hidden under the veil. Her pale and beautiful face revealed a smile as she scolded Chun Hao. Hee. Take out the key. Let's go in and heal. Chun Hao put Fujikawa's terrifying demon-like face into a low-level storage ring. After putting it away, he also took off his mask and carried Chun Shui without any restraint. Chun Shui's delicate body trembled slightly, but she did not struggle. Only under the black veil, her pale face frowned slightly. Since she was born, no man had been able to have such intimate contact with her. When she was being carried by Chun Hao in the battle, just now, she had no time to think about anything. But now it was different. The 16 keys gathered together and turned into a stream of light, sinking into the 16 grooves on the palace gate at the same time. At the moment of sinking into the grooves, the circular gate suddenly shone with an incomparably bright light. After a rotation, the palace gate rumbled open. Chun Hao carried Chun Shui and stepped in. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 262. The moment they stepped into the palace, Chun Hao and Chun Shui were shocked. From the outside, the core palace was already ridiculously large, with a diameter of 3,000 feet and a height of 5,000 feet. However, after entering, there was actually a completely different world. It was as if they had entered another world. The two appeared on the top of a towering mountain. The top of the mountain was circular, with a diameter of 9,000 feet. Just this alone was 3 times larger than the palace outside. They couldn't see the top of the mountain. There were only clouds as black as ink floating gently in the sky. They couldn't see the end of the mountain and didn't know how big it was. At least with their powerful senses, they couldn't detect the end of the mountain. The surface of the mountain was flat and smooth, as if it had been cut in half by a powerful expert. At the core, there was a strange building that was circular like a yurt. It was only 15 feet in diameter, and its surface was covered with fine runes. Chun Hao and Chun Shui appeared at the edge of the mountain. Dark clouds rolled downwards, and the depth was unknown. Even though the two of them had strong minds, they couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when they looked downwards. Their minds had only extended downwards for 1,000 feet, and they felt an irresistible and terrifying pressure. At this moment, the runes on the odd-shaped building at the core suddenly began to move slowly. A faint milky white light floated out and shone on the two. In just an instant, the two of them felt that this milky white light was a kind of extremely pure and gentle energy, and it naturally merged into their bodies. Immediately, they clearly felt that their essence, energy, and spirit were recovering at an astonishing speed. The true essence of the light attribute. Chun Hao and Chun Shui were shocked at the same time. At their level, they could more or less control the energy of the 5 elements, but it was impossible to control the true essence of all attributes. This faint milky white light was definitely not just the pure light attribute energy, but the ultimate of light, the true essence and the law of light. And it was definitely not the elementary category of the true essence. Otherwise, it was absolutely impossible to have such a magical function. The fourth level cave is so powerful. Chen Hao, let me down. Chun Shui, who originally didn't have any strength, regained the strength to move in just a breath. Even though there was still no energy in his dantian and his body was still heavily injured, the recovery of his essence, energy, and spirit allowed him to have the most basic physical strength. Moreover, the injuries in his body were also quickly recovering. Let's go in and take a look. Hearing Chun Shui's words, Chun Hao hurriedly put down the soft and graceful body in his arms. He held Chun Shui's little hand and walked towards the oddly shaped building. As the two of them gradually approached, the milky white light became thicker and thicker. Their recovery speed also became faster and faster. Chun Hao, in particular, already had an abnormal recovery ability. After just a few thousand feet, the extremely serious injuries on his body were completely healed. What he lacked was true essence. When the two of them seemed to be strolling hand in hand and traversed 4,500 feet to arrive before the oddly shaped building, even the heavy injuries on Chun Shui's body had completely recovered. When the two of them had a tacit understanding and stretched out their hands to touch the odd-shaped building at the same time, an unexpected change occurred. The talisman markings on the building instantly emitted an even more resplendent light. It shook violently for a moment before Chun Hao and Chun Shui disappeared on the spot and entered the building. This was a world of light. The milky white light was so thick that it seemed to have condensed into a liquid state. It floated around the two of them, and the mystery of the true essence of the light attribute filled it. What was emitting this milky white light was a white round crystal with a diameter of 1 meter in front of them. What is this thing? Chun Shui opened her little mouth in surprise and asked in astonishment. It doesn't matter what it is. The most important thing is to quickly start cultivating. This thing contains pure light attribute energy and has already begun to activate. I don't know how long it will last. I just happen to need to go into seclusion. Oh, the two of them exchange a glance. Chun Hao's figure flashed, and he appeared on the other side of the sphere. He sat down cross-legged and immersed himself in cultivation. Chun Shui took a deep breath. She did not dare to waste precious time and was instantly immersed in the mysterious light. There was no doubt that this was an excellent environment to comprehend the true essence of the light attribute. Whether or not one could comprehend it depended on oneself. 7 days later, the milky white light began to weaken slowly. In less than 4 hours, the white crystal sphere cracked and turned into fine powder. Chun Hao and Chun Shui did not come out of their cultivation state. Their bodies were shining with a faint milky white light, and a holy and transcendent aura enveloped them. The exposed skin of the two of them seemed to have turned into glowing crystals. They were sparkling and translucent, and one could clearly see the flowing light within. After 3 days, the light around Chun Shui dissipated. She let out a long sigh and opened her eyes. Phew! I've successfully comprehended the true essence of the light attribute. Unfortunately, compared to the aura of the crystal sphere, my comprehension is still superficial. It seems that any kind of law of heaven and earth is not so simple. Chun Shui felt the surging power in her body and thought to herself. She looked at Chun Hao. The moment she saw Chun Hao, Chun Shui's eyes widened in surprise. Although she did not dare to use her mind to investigate for fear of affecting Chun Hao, at this moment, the rich light attribute energy contained in Chun Hao's body shocked Chun Shui. One must know that the crystal sphere had been broken for 3 days. The light attribute energy that had fused into his body should have been almost completely depleted. But the light attribute energy in Chun Hao's body was several times more powerful than Chun Shui's at her peak. How can it be so much more powerful than mine? It shouldn't be. I'm already at the late gold core stage. Although my body is not as strong as his, the gap should not be so big. Could it be that He has comprehended more than me? Chun Shui stared at Chun Hao in surprise and thought to herself, I'm always defeated by him. Next time, I'll definitely be stronger than him. Chun Shui looked at Chun Hao's handsome face and said while biting her lips, because her mother had been sealed in her womb for hundreds of years, her innate soul power was 10 times or even 100 times more powerful than ordinary people. It was also because of this that her comprehension and talent were not comparable to people of the same age. In the past, she did not know all of this. She only knew that it was easy for her to cultivate any cultivation technique, including the comprehension of the laws of heaven and earth. She had too many advantages over ordinary people. No one of the same age could compare to her. But this time, she entered the cave at the same time as Chun Hao. Not only was her combat power not as good as Chun Hao's, but she also lost in comprehension. The corner of Chun Shui's mouth twitched slightly. She stared at Chun Hao and immediately revealed a smile. Although she was a little shocked, she was actually a little happy in her heart. When the crystal sphere broke, the odd-shaped building also disappeared at the same time. Standing up quietly, Chun Shui walked to the top of the mountain far away. This is the exit. Chun Shui came in front of a whirlpool that seemed to be the entrance of every floor of the ancient Black Wind Cave and said softly, Let's wait for him together. It shouldn't take long. Chun Shui looked at the slightly tattered blue dress on her body and frowned slightly. Immediately, she took out her sword and merged with everything in the world. Quietly, she dug a cave on the flat top of the mountain and went in, quickly taking off her clothes. Her lithe and exquisite body was fully exposed. Although there wasn't any dirt on her body, Chun Shui still took out a container of clean water from her storage ring and splashed it all over her body. Only when she felt clean in her heart did she use her energy to dry her hair and quickly put on a new set of clothes. She was still wearing her blue dress. Without a veil, any man who saw her would have their heart shaken, especially since she had comprehended the true essence of the light attribute. At this moment, the aura around her body had undergone a subtle change. It carried a trace of holiness and was even more indescribable. Wearing her veil, Chun Shui stepped out of the cave and sat cross-legged far away from Chun Hao, also entering a state of cultivation. Senior Brother Liu, you're finally here. You're the only one left. Is the news true or false? Of course it's true. Many groups of people have already gone. Even the super geniuses of the 4 great 9th-rank sects have gone. This time, the Black Wind Ancient Cave will be lively. However, no one has found the Red Flame Beast yet. We still have a chance. All right, then let's go immediately. It's naturally best if we can get the Red Flame Beast. If not, it's also good to see the super geniuses of the 9th-rank sects. That's right. Senior Brother Liu, you're not inferior to the super geniuses of the 9th-rank sections a year later. It'll be the inter-sect competition that's held once every 10 years. With Senior Brother Liu's combat strength, you'll definitely shine at that time. Compared to the top 10 geniuses of the 10 great sects, I'm still a little inferior. However, I'm confident that I can fight a year later. On the other hand, you guys should work hard and strive to enter the nascent soul stage as soon as possible. It's good to be able to see the world. I heard that there's a real genius in the sword riding sect. The disciple called Senior Brother Liu exuded a valiant aura. It was obvious that he was at the peak of the advanced nascent soul stage. Yes, that kid's called Chun Hao. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's said that he's only at the advanced golden core stage. But he killed the super genius of the sword-riding sect, Fan Fong. If it's true, this kid might be able to enter the nascent soul stage before the inter-sect competition. I'm afraid the sword-riding sect won't let him go, right? Senior Brother Liu smiled lightly. Senior Brother Liu, the sword-riding sect won't dare to act recklessly. Chun Hao and Fan Fong had a fair fight. Moreover, it said that Chun Hao saved the direct descendant of the sect leader of the Ling Tian sect, Xiao Lan Lan, and the super genius, Duan Yufei, from the hands of the Red Flame Beast in the ancient Black Wind Cave. Therefore, the young master of the Ling Tian sect, Xiao Nan Tian, spread the news that if the sword-riding sect dares to break the rules, the Ling Tian sect will intervene. It's obvious that a super genius like Chun Hao has already attracted the favor of the Ling Tian sect. Chun Hao, who was immersed in his cultivation, did not know that his deeds in the ancient Black Wind Cave had spread throughout Black Iron City in a short 2 days. In less than half a month, the entire eastern continent was abuzz with the news. Under Xia Nanshan's warning, the sword-riding sect experts who were originally guarding the ancient Black Wind Cave's transportation formation all entered the ancient Black Wind Cave to vent their frustrations on the Red Flame Beast. Similarly, what Chen Hao did not know was that Xia Nantian had also brought his sister Xia Yuyu, cousin Xia Lanlan, and Duan Yufei into the ancient Black Wind Cave. To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 263. The main reason why Xia Nantian spread the news was that he could not stand Xia Yuyu's pestering. Of course, he also got permission from the sect leader, Xia Lingfeng, who was also his grandfather. The truth was just as the rumors said. A super genius like Chun Hao had attracted the attention of the Ling Tian sect. Back then, Xia Lingfeng stopped Xia Yutong from killing Chun Hao because he thought of this possibility. Of course, the most important reason was still Xia Yuyu. It had been more than 2 years. He thought that time would fade away the encounter between Xia Yuyu and Chun Hao. However, now, no matter how he looked at it, Chun Hao had become a knot in Xia Yuyu's heart. Xia Lanlan thought that Xia Yuyu could not forget Chun Hao because she did not come into contact with other super genius disciples. However, Xia Lingfeng knew that the mental cultivation method that Xia Yuyu cultivated contained the heartless Tao. Now that she had advanced to the peak of the advanced nascent soul stage, she still could not forget him. What did that mean? Otherwise, based on Chun Hao's performance, Xia Lingfeng would not have allowed Xia Nantian to spread the news. Unfortunately, Xia Lingfeng did not understand Chun Hao's character. Phew! Chun Hao's body shone with a faint green light. He let out a long breath and woke up from his cultivation state. It's been 2 months. It's obviously impossible to become a fatty in one bite on the cultivation path. With my current combat strength, I have nothing to fear if I meet Fujikawa again. I should be able to fight an early nascent soul stage expert, right? Chun Hao thought to himself. After Chun Hao finished refining the light attribute energy, Chun Xuan knew that Chun Hao was going to cultivate in seclusion here, so she left first. As for Chun Hao, he cultivated in seclusion here for 2 whole months. The battle with Fujikawa made Chun Hao realize that he had to start cultivating the Taoist scripture secret. If he did not coincidentally obtain the Doomsday armor set and cast the Dark Wind disaster at the last moment, a small blood soul technique and territory space would have taken his life. He would not be so lucky every time he encountered a powerful divine ability in the future. However, the cultivation techniques recorded in the Taoist canon were too profound for Chun Hao. He'd tried countless of them with his current cultivation level, yet he was utterly unable to comprehend their profundities. He understood the literal meaning and knew the cultivation method, but every time he cultivated, it would end in him vomiting blood. His realm was too low. Fortunately, the mysterious existence in his mind told him to try the Great 5 Elements art when he was about to give up after trying more than 30 types. The Major 5 Elements art was a supreme technique ranked in the top 10 of the 3,000 Great Tao. Chun Hao's attempts were ranked last. He had no intention of trying the Major 5 Elements art at all. However, it had to be said that the mysterious existence's knowledge was far beyond Chun Hao's. The Great 5 Elements art had a total of 5 basic techniques: Greenwood Emperor art, Heavenly Fire Sun Fist, Platinum Sky Splitting Slash, Black Water Sovereign Palm, and Earth Mountain Jumping art. Only by cultivating the 5 basic cultivation methods to the extreme could one be considered to have mastered the Taoist scripture. Only when one truly comprehended its profundity could one unleash its true power. According to the words of the mysterious existence, Chun Hao chose the Platinum Sky Splitting Slash, which had the most murderous aura among the 5 basic cultivation methods of the Great Five Elements art. Although the cultivation process was also unbearably painful, but at least he could cultivate it. After 2 months, Chun Hao finally completed the first level of the Platinum Sky-Piercing Slash. Due to the restriction of his realm, he could only use it 3 times before exhausting all his energy. Barely. It's already not bad for you to be able to do this. The Taoist scripture's secret records are all supreme techniques. Only the basic cultivation method of the Taoist scripture can be cultivated at the Golden Elixir realm. But it can only be used as a trump card. Unless it's a last resort, don't use it. Otherwise, it will exhaust your energy in 2 or 3 moves, and you will die, the mysterious existence said. What realm do I have to reach before I can use it freely? Chun Hao could not help but ask. You have to be at least at the primordial soul realm before you can use it normally. The 3,000 great Daos are the true great Daos that connect the universe. As your cultivation base increases, you will realize that it will become stronger and stronger. But what? Forget it. I can't interfere too much with you. There are some things that I can't tell you for the time being. I don't want to affect your state of mind. My previous masters grew much faster than you under my interference. But in the end, it was proven that I was wrong. Instead, it became their shackles and shackles. Hiss. At noon on the 2nd day, the transportation formation at the entrance of the Black Wind Ancient Cave in the Heavenly Armament Pavilion shone brightly. One by one, cultivators walked out of the transportation formation one after another. Damn it, I worked for more than a month for nothing. Let's go to Black Iron City to vent our anger. That's enough, old third. What's there to be depressed about? Those sect experts should be even more depressed. They didn't even get the incarnation stage experts, let alone us. This Crimson Flame beast is really terrifying. Ling Tian's sect Xia Yuyu is worthy of being called the super genius young lady in the Eastern continent. We can't compare to her. Exactly. I've never heard of anyone who dared to trigger the heavenly punishment in a battle. Moreover, she destroyed the heavenly punishment with a single strike. It's really unbelievable. Yes, Xia Yuyu is only 19 years old and has already stepped into the incarnation stage. It's definitely not a problem for her to get into the top 3 in this year's sect exchange competition. Moreover, she'll only be 29 years old in the next competition. Who can stop her at that time? Ling Tian's sect is ranked 6th among the top 10 grade 9 sections. This time, just because of Xia Yuyu, I'm afraid they'll rise by 2 ranks. That's not necessarily true. Xia Yuyu did catch up later, but Origin Gates, Chu Qingtian, Sky Sword Sect's Wu Ruochen, and Misty Palace's Lone Star reached the peak of the mastery stage of the nascent soul stage earlier than Xia Yuyu. They just accumulated strength and didn't trigger the heavenly punishment. For Xia Yuyu to advance so quickly, she definitely doesn't have a solid foundation like them. Her combat strength should be inferior. Moreover, there are probably many powerful and young super geniuses from the previous competition. Therefore, not to mention the top 3, even the top 10 is not bad. How's that possible? Don't forget that Xia Yuyu obtained the Crimson Flame Beast's Undying Blood Essence. With her innate talent, she'll definitely be able to comprehend the profundity of the undying body. At that time, how strong will she be? An ordinary-looking figure was mixed in the crowd. He frowned slightly as he listened to the discussions of the cultivators who walked out of the transportation formation. Many of these people were experts at the peak of the mastery stage of the nascent soul stage. Their auras were extremely powerful. Yuyu actually advanced to the incarnation stage. Is the decennial sect exchange competition a year later? This figure was none other than Chun Hao, who had used the transportation talisman to come out. Chun Hao had read about the sect exchange competition in the sect's information. It was held once every 10 years. Only the core disciples of the sect and genius disciples below the age of 40 could participate. In any sect, regardless of grade, the condition to become a core disciple must be at the nascent soul stage. However, those above the age of 40 could no longer participate. Otherwise, it would not be able to test the new strength of the sect. The sect exchange competition was also a reference for the sect's grade and ranking. Being able to obtain good results could not directly increase the sect's grade. However, it could win providence for oneself and the sect. In fact, it was also a battlefield for the various sects to fight for providence. Phew! I must participate in the sect exchange competition. Chun Hao's heart was instantly filled with a myriad of emotions. In this exciting world where martial strength was supreme, the arrogant him was never afraid of competition. Only competition could make his goal clearer and allow him to work tirelessly for it. Moreover, he had already given up on the dragon transformation list. This time, he could not miss the clash between the true super geniuses of the sect. 2 years was already too long, let alone 10 years. Taking a deep breath, Chun Hao turned into a ray of light and quickly flew in the direction of Black Iron City. Chun Hao. Just as Chun Hao flew a distance away, a familiar voice suddenly floated into his ears from behind. Chun Hao was slightly taken aback. How did she recognize him? Chun Hao did not reply. Instead, he turned around and looked at the person who had just arrived. The person who had just arrived was none other than Yi Feishue and a few inner disciples of the star-picking sect. Sorry, I got the wrong person. When Yi Feishue saw Chun Hao's face, she was slightly taken aback and said apologetically, "It's all right." Chun Hao changed his voice and said with a slight smile. At this moment, Chun Hao was wearing the 1,000 illusion mask that he had obtained from Fujikawa. If it was only Yi Feishue, he would have recognized her. However, there were few disciples that he did not recognize. Hence, just in case, Chun Hao could only say this. At the same time, he transmitted his voice to Yi Feishue, "Senior sister, how did you recognize me?" Yi Feishue was slightly taken aback. Then, she replied calmly, "It's really you? I thought I got the wrong person. When I walked out of the teleportation portal, I only saw your back. When I transmitted my voice, I felt that it was not your aura. You're wearing a mask." Yes, it's better to be careful. Previously, I was targeted as soon as I stepped out of the star-picking sect. Now that I've killed Fan Fong, I'm afraid the Sword Sect won't let me go. They won't. The Sword Sect won't dare to act recklessly. Since the Ling Tian sect has intervened, they can only take revenge on you as an inner disciple. Without absolute confidence, they won't dare to act recklessly. The Ling Tian sect has intervened. Chun Hao is slightly taken aback. Let's talk when we reach Black Iron City. There's a restaurant called the First Fragrance in the city center. I'll meet you there alone. While Yi Feishue was transmitting her voice, she had already sped up and led the group to overtake Chun Hao so that the people around her would not be suspicious. All right. Along the way, Chun Hao encountered countless cultivators with a powerful cultivation base. Obviously, these people had just come out of the Black Wind Ancient Cave. They had only come out after Xia Yuyu had killed the Red Flame Beast. Chun Hao maintained the speed of a Mastery Golden Core stage. It was neither fast nor slow and did not attract much attention. However, he was conflicted. No matter what, Chun Hao did not expect the Ling Tian sect to protect him. Although he could not guess what was going on, Chun Hao did not care. However, Xia Yu must have known about his situation. Other than killing the Red Flame Beast, she must have come to the Black Wind Ancient Cave to look for him. Had she come out now? Should he meet her? To be continued. If you like this work, you're welcome to vote for it at Chidian. Calm. Your support is my biggest motivation. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.